Kennedy, fellow select board members. Coleman's there, town administrator, and Justine Hanson's over there getting our minutes. We all know each other, probably mostly. But if you have anything to add to the conversation and you're in the public, just raise your hand, I'll call on you. And state your name for the minutes. We will be on air. Who's doing that?
Julie.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be on there. Say split, so panic for a second. Always archived for future viewing. There we go. Right. Tonight's agenda will review the multifamily water meter incentive program. We have power supply rates to agree on, and then vote to reactivate the master plan steering committee. That's exciting. Time for a review of that vision for the town, see where we're headed, where we've been, where we're going. And then we have a bunch of new members, some members for the Heritage Commission. That's exciting. And then a grant acceptance for asset management stuff. And then at 5:30, we'll welcome I'll hand it over to Rick Lusser, chair of the budget committee.
5:30. A little late next week.
Between 5:30 and 7, I will hand it over to introduce the budget committee. Yeah, great. Let's get started. So, you guys have finalized. We had in our packet the meter installation program.
We had the contract, and we had a draft of the contract and a draft summary of the program that you reviewed last week. I took your feedback. I made a couple of updates, which I sent out to you earlier today. Hope you got a chance to review them. Really, the only thing that we're looking for at this point to start the program is a program cap. But we've also received an email, a letter from Liz Ogden from Kentucky Housing Trust, which she hoped that the board would see and acknowledge tonight. So.
Right, which we do. We all read that letter, and they're a nonprofit, of course.
They are
so
nonprofit.
They're different as far as their funding goes for their units. So.
Correct.
Okay, which is something we can look at and discuss possibly in the future. But so they may not even be affected by this that we're.
I think, let's at least get this program in place and see what we can do with it. It may be, as Liz says, not possible or feasible for all of their buildings, which are mostly old, renovated buildings. They may not be good candidates for upgrades, in which case, we'll consider some other options. But if we can get this in place, get get agreements with property owners that will give us the opportunity to have those conversations and to see what we can do in terms of getting single units metered, as well as, and just reduce the costs for everybody involved.
I've got two questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we have a code regulating currently on new buildings, new multifamily buildings, individual meters?
We do not.
Probably should think about that. That's a planning board issue, isn't it?
Correct.
So I'll have a conversation with those folks. I know a number of municipalities have that requirement, and that would certainly ease up everything on us. The second thing is on the multifamily meters, the second bullet item says installation grace period for 6 billing periods.
Yes.
So if they sign the agreement, they're given 6 periods to begin to implement that.
So it's, I believe, if I remember correctly, I don't have it up in front of me, but I believe that we give them 6 months to begin the work, to, once that they've gone in, and then the entire program period is retroactive to October of 25 billing,
Right.
And then goes forward 6 from there, 6 billing periods.
6 billing periods.
Which is quarterly.
What we'll be doing then in that period of time is charging them at the second tier.
Correct.
What if they sign up and then don't participate past that 6 billing period? Is there a penalty?
There's no penalty per se.
So they're getting
Because in order to qualify, they have to have already put forward some good faith effort. There will be incentive for them to actually go forward and complete the work that they've promised to do. There will be investment on their part before they even get to the point where they qualify for the program.
I think that would be sufficient. I mean, I can foresee the possibility of someone signing up, getting that 6 billing period, second tier, and then.
There is a clause in there in the contract that they agreed to, and I'm trying to remember the exact wording of it off the top of my head. I may just have to pull it up and read it out. But it does allow the town to withdraw from the agreement, and in which case it cuts it off at that point.
But there's no penalty for, or even just going back and recouping the differences.
Sorry, let me see if I can find this section here.
Carl's still in the chair.
So,
You know what I'm talking about. My daughter is involved in this. You're going to do a multi-thing. And I think that's more, certainly equitable. It's more expensive. Or it's equitable. Yeah, retrofitting is a whole different story, but this is new construction.
so it's kind of all over the place. There isn't one specific thing that I can pull out in here, but there are owner obligations, there's the town obligations, there is an entire section just about, you know, dispute resolution and mediation. So there's some avenues there if they don't follow through. The attorneys contemplated it. Did a better job at that than me.
Yeah, I was hoping to get involved in this, and I'm sure there were.
Good questions. Appreciate it.
Just one small thing. I just wanted to make sure for the irrigation meters and that section, if we could just confirm what, I think Nate, you said, that there would be no extra meter fee if they add the irrigation?
You mean a minimum charge per quarter?
Yeah.
Correct. There already isn't one.
What I'm saying,
There currently is not one.
yeah. So I just want to make sure they know.
Yes.
Because you might not be irrigating this quarter.
Certainly hope not.
Yeah, I just.
Anybody else have any questions about this program? Hi.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah, Art Donahue Rolfe. I guess I would like to have a general review of, you guys are talking, I looked online, I read what was there, I didn't see anything about particulars that you're talking about right now.
Okay.
So this was part of the selectmen's packet last week because it's not the program hasn't been implemented yet. They're reviewing the draft program. Once they've approved it, then it will go on. It'll be much easier to find on our website. But currently, it's just part of their meeting packets.
Okay. Okay, and why for these multi-unit buildings, can't you just put as you were talking about that 6-month tier rate, why can't you just leave that in place?
You mean the second tier for the
Second
whole
tier,
building?
yeah.
So the goal is really to do two things. It's to encourage conservation across the board with the rate structure. So the new rate structure was developed in part to encourage conservation, and the way you do that is through higher rates at higher amounts of usage. And so one of the things that we didn't quite contemplate as we were developing the rate model in the first place was that we have a lot of buildings that were converted from single families into multi-families. And that all those households would automatically end up in the highest rate tier.
I'm aware of that.
So the goal of this is to try to meet both the original intent of the rate model, which is to encourage conservation and allow people to have better control over their actual usage and their utility bill. And the only way you can really do that is if you have meters in the buildings, in each of the units. So that way, if you have a unit that is rented out to a single person and a unit that is rented out to a 4-person household, they're actually paying for their own consumption. I understand that it's not that easy necessarily to break out particularly older buildings, but the goal is to really at least try this first and see how many units we can get upgraded so that they're each on their own meter and have the ability to, you know, to actually be built based on their actual consumption.
And what do you estimate the cost, the average cost of putting in a meter? That's going to basically be the responsibility of the homeowner.
I don't know. It's really going to vary dramatically building to building based on the plumbing situation. You know, whether it's straightforward, you know, each unit has its own individual service, you know, basically an internal service line, and we can just put a meter on that, or is it more complex? We really won't know until property owners start investigating and reporting back to us.
And part of the reason for this increase in water rates, which I, you know, basically I've heard from lots of people that say my rates have gone up.
Yep.
It is to pay for this Jaffrey Peterborough well system.
Mhm.
Is Jaffrey also getting hit with increase in their water rates?
Jaffrey's financial situation was a bit different. When they came into this program, we were able to get grants that helped us with a substantial portion of our share of the costs, but we weren't able to get fully funded. Jaffrey, through a very complicated funding package, was able to get their portion of it fully funded.
Partially bought through Millipore.
Yes.
Millipore was
Like I
a
said.
big deal.
Very
and the-
complicated.
Yeah, and the other was the Northern Border.
Northern Borders grant, they have an EDA grant, they have, Seth, you might remember, no, Seth, I understand.
But we don't, yeah, we didn't qualify for the Northern Border just because of our demographics versus Chapel.
Well, also, we're not in Cheshire County.
Exactly, that's.
So they're in Cheshire County, we're in Hillsborough County, which is also opens up different opportunities for grants, so.
And so the town took out a loan?
We had to take out a loan for a portion of it, yes, and so now we have to pay that back.
And how much is that? Do you have a-
The bond, off the top of my head, Lily, do you remember how much it is?
1 point something.
It's 4.7 million. Is that?
That sounds
Total
about what
amount.
that's. 4.7 off the top of my head is the grant funding of which we weren't able to draw the full amount down, and the balance of,
Hold on.
I think it's closer to 5, but I don't have my budget sheet in front of
I
me.
have it right in front of me. It's 4 million for the original bonding amount. And the principal payment for the current year is $404,740. The interest is $26,227.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Just a quick question, Rick Lesser. Were we able to address any of the business concerns that were raised last week in your new rejiggering or not?
It's the same meter program. It's really just directed at multifamily buildings. It's not directed at commercial use, and was never intended to be.
Anyone else? Okay, and you need from us a blessing on this and a cap on the,
Yes, and just an amount that we're capping it at.
Well, is that a total cap or is that per individual?
It's going to be a total cap on the program, so how much do you, as water and sewer commissioners, see as being the most that you want to spend on this program?
Who wants to advise us, Nate?
So we have a maximum possible estimate for an outlay. If every multifamily unit that we are aware of in Peterborough were to put in a meter, we believe it would cost a grand total of $200,000. We don't expect that we're going to be able to, that this program will apply to every single multifamily unit. So I think that a good starting point for this program would be around $60,000,
Would that come out of the water?
50/50, water and sewer.
I did hear today that there's a really good possibility that the meters are gonna go up in price in April.
Of course.
Oh, of course, outstanding.
Way to help me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so 70,000.
I just had that the contract gives you, the commissioners, the provision that you can increase that cap at any time, so when the staff comes back and advises and says we've reached this threshold, or maybe more funding should be allocated here, the mechanism's already built in that you can move that.
yeah, that's a smart one.
Exactly. So if it does become wildly successful, like other programs we've had recently, we would be able to adjust. And then on the building permit side, we just simply wouldn't be charging for the building permits.
Right. But those aren't building permits you were expecting anyways,
No,
so it's probably not in
exactly.
the building permit revenues.
Correct.
Budget.
Yep.
This is great. Any other?
Make a motion, Bob?
Can I ask
Yeah,
one more
sure.
question? Just so I understand it. I'm from the condo Union Mill, 17 units. We got hit with a whopping water bill.
Oh, yeah.
How do we address that current, how do we get a lessening of that fee? We're probably going to end up with meters at some expense to the community. But right now, we're dealing with, our HOA fee is not covering our water bill. How do we address the town to try to lower that?
Last week, we had in a few businesses that were concerned with their water rates, and it turned out that most of the increase in their situation everything was going to raise, was at 81%, and theirs happened to go up to 83%.
So if we had stayed with the old rate system, the original rate system that we were in a year ago, everybody's bill would have gone up about 83%. Instead, through the rate model, we were able to reduce it for smaller users, single-family households, two-family households, and then the cost, that 2% difference, instead of going up 83%, it went up 85% for the largest users. That would probably include your building.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're really, the only way to reduce it is to put meters into each unit.
Well,
by
that won't
reducing-
reduce the current bill.
It won't.
That-
Well, it will, because if you're able to do that, you will be able to enter into this program, which will retroactively go back to the October billing period and put a rebate on your account.
It will put a rebate on it.
Yes.
And when is this program?
That's what they're voting on right now.
I won't ask any more questions.
Before April.
They're good questions. Yeah. Okay. You got a motion yet?
Motion? Yeah.
So I heard several different numbers. What was the recommendation, 50,000?
60,000 was my recommendation. And you can come back and increase it later. Yeah, it would be split 30, half and half.
Half and half, so 30.
And would we take that from the fund balance within the enterprise or
More than
add it to the
likely.
user? Okay.
More than likely.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good process. And we'll see how it goes. It's going to be 10 minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise, Rick's.
I'm going to try to get through this really quick.
Okay, so a power supply.
Power supply, so here are the rates.
Yeah.
If you go with and I've also sent this information to you, so it's follow-up from last week. If you choose the Peterborough local default power option, the rate would be 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That affects most, but not all of the meters that the municipal government has with Eversource. The meters that would not be affected are the ones that are already in the net metering program. That is part of our solar array. So those are the wastewater treatment plant, the sewer lift station, both of the wells, the fire station, and the townhouse. So the largest meters are not impacted by this. This covers all the rest of the meters that draw electricity.
Right.
Also wouldn't cover the library because they have their own power purchasing agreement. Yeah.
Refresh my memory. We had a contract with CPCNH
We
for
did.
commercial level billing. Is that no longer available?
Correct. They are no longer
Okay, so
doing annual
so
contracts.
commercial and residential are identical. Okay.
Well, this is specific to commercial power supplying. So these rates are for the commercial and general.
Good.
But we had a year-long rate lock-in,
Right.
and that's,
Right.
we're through that.
Right, we put through it, and as of February 1st.
And this would also be locking in for a year?
No, 6 months.
Only 6 months.
Thank you. Yeah, rates change every 6 months. And that may change in the future, but right now, they're just getting their act together.
So looking at the chart you sent with the usage,
Mhm.
it was nice to have the information that we were really counting on.
Yeah.
And it looks like at 100, at the clean 100, it's 248,000 and some change for the year. If we went with the Peterborough local, it's almost 209,000. So it's a $39,000 difference in a year. And on top of that savings, we would then get 3,600 back towards the discretionary
Discretionary
reserve.
fund, and that would be for the Peterborough local.
You were looking, right. Now, what can you get? Like this big of a solar panel for $3,600?
Let me elaborate one more.
Yeah.
This does not include the increases in the fire department.
No, the fire department's in the net metering program, so,
Oh, they are?
yes.
Oh, okay. Because the rates, I know as part of the budget, the rates are the amount that's being budgeted is about 10 times what it was.
Correct, but they're in the net metering program with solar arrays, so they have to get their power directly through Eversource, including the suppliers. So they don't participate, and
Okay,
that
so
meter
they-
does not participate in the power. Yeah.
I think we've had that discussion, and I think the argument is that we would be contributing directly to sustainable energy sources in the community if we go with
$3,500.
It's significant. I mean, I know it isn't, but how much money do we have in there now?
So what we have, yes, I brought that with me.
I know that Bruce has been following it.
Yeah, he has. So we have about, kind of as of February, 180,000 dollars in the discretionary.
In the discretionary fund, and that's over a year and a half?
Yeah.
How did that get there?
So the way that got there was through all of our residents, well, not all of them, but for all the residents that are part of community power. The CPCNH committee selected the Peterborough local. So now we have a big population of people on that Peterborough local. And a piece of what's paid into that comes back to us to be spent on sustainability projects, which both improves our sustainability in an additive way that we can see locally, like you're saying, Bill, but also reduces our local costs. For instance, if we put solar on the fire station, it will both reduce our costs in addition to be additive in terms of renewable energy. To me, I think the question is 3,600. I think you're asking that, what we get for that.
So here's another situation. We're discussing something and not having all the information. The idea that every person that's in this program in town, residences, are contributing to this discretionary fund, that would be information that would be pertinent to this decision. And we're just hearing of it now, and so every month, how much more do we get in this discretionary fund? Or you get your electric bill every month, right? So then everybody's contributing to this every month. What is the average we're getting from the citizens of Peterborough who are on this program?
Well, first of all, it has changed because
Yeah, the adder has changed.
The adder has changed. I think it's about 10,000, but what I think is important is the committee has brought this up. This is not new.
Sure.
And in fact, the CPCNH is working very hard on legislation to enable us to be able to more flexibly use those funds for sustainability projects as opposed to having to have a warrant article each time. So this has been something that's been in the works for a while. So I feel.
How much?
180,000?
That's a shocking amount of money. I mean,
And that's not even clean 100.
do all
Well,
the...
there's, Clean 100 doesn't,
Doesn't contribute.
It doesn't
It doesn't
contribute.
contribute.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So-
the only one that contributes is the Peterborough local.
but you got to remember that the Peterborough local is the default power option.
Right.
70+% of the people who are using CPC and H fall into that category. That's why the number is larger.
And does that 70% of people using that know that they are then contributing to this fund, discretionary fund?
They've been notified.
Everyone's been notified,
They've been
so
notified.
there's a mailer that went out that everyone received.
And I should also mention that that adder that you see here, the Peterborough local is equal to Granite Basic plus .0025. It's not on that chart, but it was yeah, that adder can change
Yeah.
whenever the rates are being set. So it's so low right now because the numbers have changed dramatically over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
But that number could change once again.
Yes.
That's the basic.
And, right, so that's the town of Peterborough contributing to additive renewable energy and simultaneously helping us reduce costs for the citizens. So, do you still have the question about the 3,600 and what it gets you?
No, because it's getting pulled in with 180 something.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, so that's fine. Now, 25% renewable energy in this local option. It's only 25%. That's 75% of coal and oil and gas. You know, it's
It comes from a variety of sources, yes.
that are not renewable.
Well, that's,
Right.
it's also important to keep in mind that the 25% is the guaranteed minimum. It can be more than that, and often is more than that.
Is that what
depending-
the little asterisk or star?
I'm not sure what that
cross
means,
is
but
referencing?
that is the guaranteed minimum amount of green energy.
You know it's not, it's not a percentage more, because the whole point of this is a show game, it gets people to... I feel like this is like you get a credit card that offers you 2% back on every purchase, and people are like, ooh, whoopie-ding. It's ridiculous, it's kind of it's a gimmick.
Are you saying?
And that's where I'm held up on the town's goals and constituents that are geared towards 100% renewable. That's where I'm held up. Are we selling out, or?
I wouldn't
As
call
a
it selling,
town.
no, I'm not, I wouldn't call it selling out. I think that as a town, we should be doing everything we possibly can to implement renewable sources, sustainable practices in town. We're trying to do that, and this discretionary fund gives us the opportunity to defray in a much more meaningful way than necessarily the Clean 100, to be honest with you. That's my feeling,
Also,
because it's all Rex.
if I can make a much more mundane point, no matter which rate you choose to go with, we will be over budget. Because we did not budget at 14.25 cents per kilowatt hour, never mind 17.25, which becomes a much more significant number for us to try to find elsewhere in the budget.
So you budgeted, just so I'm clear, you budgeted at Granite Basic
No, we budgeted at the rate that we had under the contract.
in the previous
So, in
year.
the previous year.
It was a Clean 100 program, though, wasn't it?
No, it was not, I don't believe so, but it was a,
But the rate was
it
much
might have
lower.
been. It's
Sure.
been such a long time,
No, we
but the
did.
rate was
We did. It was
13.
100%.
That's right.
Yeah, because we had voted to make it 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
But the rate was
Rate was much-
13,
Yeah.
was
Much
13
lower.
something, 13.5, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it's much lower.
That's to July 1st or January, or June 30th. And then after that,
No,
We
the
could-
contract ends this month.
right, but then when does the contract have to be renewed?
Now,
In February, but then in 6 months, that would be
In July, yes.
Okay, so-
This will,
so we
the
can-
choice you make tonight is through July 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that regardless of what rate you choose, we're gonna be over budget. If you choose to go with the Clean 100, we're going to be dramatically over budget on our electricity lines, which means that on those affected meters, which means we're gonna have to find that elsewhere in the budget.
Certainly, so.
And these rates in the chart are for the year, not monthly.
Correct.
So this is $3,600 in a full year.
Right.
Whereas we're
So-
getting almost 10 grand a year from the constituents who are on this program. 10
A
a
month.
month.
I think, but please don't hold me, I just really wanted to have a little bit of information to share, to provide order of magnitude on what we have basically so far, and just the fact that there's been some discussion about what could be, and Chief Walker talked about this last week, what could be put on top of the roof of the new fire station, which is about 100 kilowatts, which could be about $200,000. These are all,
Sure.
estimates. So we're really actually getting close, and what he said and what I can confirm from Bruce is that that would cut our energy use by 50%. And that is super important because that's a big space. And that could be a huge cost for our town without that. So that is going to continue. Now, how much gets added going forward is going to be smaller because the rates become higher and there's a smaller proportion that's going into the discretionary fund. But, by August, we could have about 200,000. And that's not also considering then the possibility of doing battery backup at the community center, which would reduce electricity costs at the community center, and $3,600 could pay for a good bit of one battery. So, it's a choice. I think that the discretionary fund helps both the planet and the town. I think the recs are a little bit more nebulous to me because it's no guarantee that when you pay for them, new renewable energy will be created.
Certainly. I think anybody that does do that knows that. But when your money is your vote on things, it's your purchasing power, it's your statement in your goals, and we know energy is a hot button thing, right? And any opportunity to put the kibosh on renewables, it looks like there are certain efforts here. If you raise the price, then people are less likely to want 100% renewable, which then it justifies those programs being lessened. If you have the goal and you see the trajectory of the renewable energy is rising, right? More people are using it throughout the world. But there are entities that want to stop that. And I see this chart as entities that want to stop that and making it more prohibitive with the cost. And that's where I'm struggling with it. I get the money, I know that the recs, and I think a lot of people that purchase the recs know that they're not getting, they're not getting the actual energy that way. I mean, I don't know if I'm articulating what I'm getting at. I think 75% non-renewable energy is, I don't know, why are we putting renewable energy in anything? If we're just gonna give in to the bigger entities, because the message they'll get from it is, okay, they don't want renewable energy, we'll give them 25% and, keep building coal plants. So, anybody have any questions or statements? Hey.
Dave Ogden. So Nicole, if we took the Clean 100 right now, how much would the 26 budget be over?
I don't have an exact number on that. I didn't have enough time to do that calculation before the meeting, unfortunately.
I mean, one thought that occurs to me is that given that these rates are primarily for the current fiscal year, and no matter which one of these rates we choose, it's gonna cause a real upset in the budget. Perhaps we take the one that's lowest for the time being, and as we look at the 27 budget, that we go back and put in the 17 cents into that budget, see what that does, and help maybe make a decision for looking forward for what we might do on August 1st.
That's certainly something that we can talk about.
It's just a suggestion, but it gets us past this impasse, at least for the moment. And, every time I go by putting sand on Glen Drive, I think about this year's budget, and I'm already nervous about that. So just spending more and more money on electricity for the next 5 months maybe doesn't make sense, but it is something we could plan for, and maybe we'd be in better shape then to discuss it later in the year.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Leo Smith on Summer Street. Is there any possibilities of the impact of the solar array at the wastewater treatment plant that can somehow come into this equation that's being worked on? Because I know there's I remember excess electricity being generated, keeping the rates down. Is there any opportunity with the solar array that could help out in this situation?
So we've already maximized the use of the solar array through the net metering program.
Oh, okay.
So the meters that are currently drawn for the net metering program, from the most recent report, which was on the net metering program, which is from 2024, we were using, those meters are already pulling more kilowatt hours than the solar array was putting into the system. So,
Okay.
so we're doing pretty good there. We've already maximized that as much as we could.
Thanks.
Yep.
And Nicole, is there always a 6-month review? Or is
Yes.
that?
That rates are set every 6 months now.
At this point,
Yeah.
I think there is some consideration for going potentially in the future to an annual, but right now it's 6 months.
Anyone else? Okay. No further questions?
No. I just do want to comment, if I could, before we decide, David, on your point. I appreciate the point, and I appreciate the concern about the cost impact and the fact that we haven't budgeted any of this in. And I wouldn't be opposed to going granite basic for 6 months if we felt that we needed to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out.
I think that sends a bad message to the community if they are paying attention to all, in the sense that at least, again, I like the,
I wasn't suggesting that.
Peterborough local benefits the town directly.
It does.
And I don't think it's that much difference in terms of cost between that and Granite Basic. So I'd prefer to defer to the default so that we're in line with the rest of the community.
We would be.
Yeah, the majority of the community who is on CPC and H.
Currently, it's just about $3,000 less for the basic
Yes, that would be it. Well,
in a year.
in a year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
like more.
closer to 1,100.
1,100. Yeah. So your point's a good one about sending the message. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we accept Peterborough Local as our electricity rate from CPC&H beginning February 1st.
Second.
Any more discussion?
More
Done?
discussion? All those in favor? No? Nay. Sorry.
I'm
Just
with
realizing
you.
a nay. And I'm voting nay strictly because of the 100% goal. And I completely understand the dollars, and I know we're $40 under. Are we still $40 under from last year's budget? So you know, one of the things. Performatively, I'm gonna vote no. Okay? All right, I think, what else we have? Oh, more volunteers. Danica, do you want to just mention why we're bringing the master plan steering committee back?
Yeah, so I'm Danica, I'm the Director of Planning and Building. The Master Plan Steering Committee is in charge of updating the town's master plan. It's required to be updated every 5 years, so we're just about getting ready to hit that 5-year mark, end of this year, but we want to start early to be able to do the outreach in time. The Master Plan Steering Committee is a subcommittee to the Planning Board, so the Planning Board met this past December and voted to reactivate their committee. It requires at least one planning board member sitting on that committee. We were lucky to have, I think, 4 or 5 members in total from the planning board interested in also sitting on the steering committee. We put out a call to action for some new volunteers to join us. We have 1 returning member from the last steering committee, but the rest of them represent other boards, and we actually have 1 who is a member at large from the public. So we're excited to have them joining us this year, and hopefully we will get ready to kick off in March of this year, March 10th.
Great.
I just have one question. I was just curious how you put the word out.
So I put it out at the dispatch and on social media, and we very quickly had people reach out and wanting to join. We encourage people to come to meetings if they do want to participate in the outreach process or help facilitate the outreach as we do those outreach events. The more the merrier. These are the people who will help us decide what those outreach goals look like, but we've certainly had people in the past come to meetings and give input, and especially just helped us look over the drafts of the master plan and helped us make revisions. So if anyone's out there that's interested in joining, coming to meetings, please do.
And I'll be the liaison to that group, so I'll make a motion to appoint members and alternate members.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Massive one.
Great to have volunteers. And then we also have the Heritage Commission, a couple of new members for that, and I'll make a motion to appoint Pamela Murphy and Katherine Gardella to that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We have grant opportunity here with the asset management.
Well, it's a agreement?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 grants tonight, both of them for utilities division, so I'm going to turn it right over to Fosh and Nate to discuss.
The asset management grant, specifically $10,000. Nate and I applied earlier this year. It's specifically a DES grant to enhance our existing asset management. We're already working on a plan with IT and Public Works to improve some of our online applications. Grant fit in, it's $10,000 in-kind match to the work we're already doing. That's essentially it. We just have to sign the agreement and the money is ours. We just have to log hours with our crews, but it's an in-kind match, no hard money. That's one grant. What's the other one?
And the other grant is the, hold on, Local Source Water Protection Grant.
So I put in for some doors at the wells. They're falling apart, and I saw the grant opportunity, so I applied, and we got the money. I think it was about $2,500,
I just added up, and of course I
and
closed
change.
it. Yeah, $2,230.
Right.
That's great.
Have you ever turned out grant?
I'll make a motion that we accept both of those.
And also to appoint Nicole today to
Oh
execute
yeah,
all
make sure
the-
she signs it.
As amended, yes. All those in favor? Aye.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. The moment, Rick, we've been waiting for. Rick Lesser, Chair of the Budget Committee, ready to get going?
Let's do it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Tyler. Most of our members are here tonight. There's Al Lenos in the back, Dan Gross, Mary Clark, and then Dave Odlin, Tony Pascal, Vic Reynolds, Paul Nosey. Note this down.
We're going to approve the minutes.
Oh.
Did we see them?
Did we have that on the?
I put it at the end so you guys can all do it together.
Did we get a chance to review those? Did we get sent those or electronically?
So, yes.
I got that.
Yeah.
We get them as part of the packet.
Yeah. I believe they were on there.
I'll double check.
Yeah, they would probably be
Because
better.
it does include the budget, so.
Right.
Yeah, so we should do it.
Let me
every
check.
year.
Right, that'll
Yeah.
come up.
Yep.
I didn't get a chance to see it. So we had a couple of areas, IT and DPW tonight we're discussing, and who wants to go first?
Selected.
Oh, lucky you.
I always stand, but I'm definitely gonna stand because I'm back this weekend. Chair is killing me, so apologies to anybody else that's got some lower back going on. The chairs aren't the best. In fact, we could consider putting some new chairs in the budget. Nope. Just kidding. They're not very far. I'm familiar with most everybody in the room, but not everybody, and maybe there are people watching or doing the meeting later. So my name is Seth McLean. I've been working for Peterborough for 13 or so years, and I've been in this capacity going, I believe, 5 at this point. Prior to that, I was operations manager and the assistant public works director. I'm not alone tonight, and I'm going to talk about that a lot because our budgets really are a big team effort, and much of our work is out it's handled by our superintendents and other members of the staff who it's not so obvious. So oftentimes when I give this presentation every year, I like to once, maybe twice a year opportunity to also say, here's the work we're doing that you maybe can't see. There's lots that you do see. You got people out plowing roads and things yesterday. But a lot of people don't have an understanding of the behind the scenes that happens to make all that work. I'm going to go through a little bit of that because it's a good chance to give our team credit. For instance, like I said, I've got some people here. Tim Rose is in the back here in the blue flannel. Tim handles the highway department. Tim's been working since 9:30 last night, and he's here at this meeting tonight. And he's a dedicated individual. He's a little tired, I know, but I said you didn't have to show up, but that's not how Tim is built, so Tim is here. Darren Smith is our recycling manager. He's over here. Let people know there he is. He's nodding. There he is. Nate Brown, superintendent of utilities, water and sewer, and he also helps to oversee a little bit of recycling, although that's less and less as Darren's grown into his position. We're going to talk about the FY27 budget tonight. It's very dense, as you know, looking through it. In the interest of time, usually I can get this to about 2 hours, and that's just focusing on the highlights. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can. There's a lot to cover, and like I said, for the benefit of those who don't understand it, I try not to skip over major sections, but what I try to do, working with the team, is to highlight the areas of the budget that sort of are big outliers from year over year. Now, Bonnie said some questions earlier. I would encourage anyone else to do that as well. If there's specific things that you think we could answer that are really kind of more detail-oriented as I try to get through this and get on to Foch tonight, please, by all means, send them over. I think with Bonnie's questions, those are, if they haven't already been, are being redistributed out to the committee. I think it's a good way to handle some of that too. It's very helpful, gives us a chance, particularly if there are questions like, we try our best to stay on top of everything, but we're not encyclopedic when it comes to decisions that we make thousands and thousands of decisions year over year in our budget. So we might get stumbled. So if you go to the next slide, Nicole, please. I'll go over really briefly. I won't nauseate you with all the little details of every little thing we do, but I'd like to show that because it's a team effort, and I think there's some value in you understanding that as you look through the budget. So I'll go through the main department objectives and our mission. It's fairly clear, but in some cases it's not. I'll go over each division. I'll do an overview of the budget highlights. We'll get into the operating budget, give you staffing figures. That helps you contextualize the various personnel areas. How many people are you really being serviced by in each one of our divisions? And in some cases, for instance, like the administrative budget, that's only a couple of us at this point, but it's so much of what we do is handled also, sort of like I said to Nicole earlier, it's a Venn diagram. It crosses over into the board. The town administrator, heavy amount of work with the finance director, Lily, but it's not reflected in everything we do. But we, as an administrative team and department heads, we work very closely together to make these things happen. And of course, like I said, superintendents and our manager have to implement in the field and get these things done, and they also advise. So I also was asked to I'll skim through the CIP request. I think the CIP capital improvement plan is very important because there's been some changes to it the last couple of years in terms of fleet. Some of the other things we're saving for, and of course, the roads program, which I'll give a brief update on, but I think we have to mention it because it's also reflected in the operating budget. We'll do our best to answer all the questions tonight. Please stop me if you have a question. Again, I would encourage you email, and we'll redistribute to the group if there's really things you're particularly interested in. We'll do our best to answer. I can't promise you we can get them all tonight, but we'll try. And I want to say thank you to some people really quickly. The managers and superintendent and Lily and Nicole and all the staff supporting these people put a lot of effort into this budget to put this thing together in short order and try to meet the goals of the community. And it's difficult to do. They deserve a lot of credit for how much effort that goes into this to get us this far and to get us on really good ground as we start the budget process. So it's not one person, it's not just Nate doing the utilities budget, it's a lot of forecasting behind the scenes and a lot of team effort. So I couldn't do it unless it was a group effort, and I'm very appreciative of that. So if you could move on, we'll start cruising along. I won't verbatim read everything here, but I think this is important. What do we do? What are we here to do as a public works department? It's not just plowing snow, it's enhancing the safety, health, and livability of the community by delivering and managing essential public services and infrastructure, supporting safe transportation, clean water, and a clean, resilient, and enjoyable environment. So we are doing snow work, we're delivering clean water, we're also cleaning that water like we talked about with the wastewater plant later, and putting that back into the environment in a responsible way, meeting our permits, everything that goes into the regulatory environment around all of our actions as a department. And it comes together in a very difficult but one small mini paragraph sentence here. Next slide, please. So what does that look like? So when you look through that budget, what are you getting at the top level for the money that goes into these budgets? Over 170 million gallons of safe drinking water, meeting all of the permits, and we are permitted like crazy in municipal water. It's not just get it out of the ground, treat it, and send it off to people. We are held to a very, very high standard. We treat all that, well, not all of it, but a lot of that water comes back to the plant. We have to treat that water. We have to haul away the things we can't put out in the environment. We have to put the clean water back out into the river. We do that responsibly and in compliance with numerous permits, including the EPA. Tim's group manages over 140 lane miles. We have roughly 72 miles of roads in town, but we sort of think about it in lane miles because you're making 2 trips up each end when you're talking about winter operations. Which includes plowing and emergency responses. It's also the maintenance of all those roads that you, the residents of Peterborough, own. We have a responsibility, and I think that their group does a really, really good job with that. I think we have some of the best roads in the region, thanks to the team, but also thanks to the investment this town's put into those roads over the last 10 years. We process 2,000 tons of solid waste. We maintain and repair all town buildings, facilities, and critical infrastructure, and we maintain and enhance 37 acres of public fields, parks, and trails. So what does it take to do this reliably? We have to provide 24/7 emergency response readiness for water, sewer, roads, and facilities. That means we have on-call employees 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That means we're the first to be called to get out in front of major accidents and other issues, Tim's team. That means we have to be ready if something breaks in the system, and Nate's team has to get called to action to deal with what could be a catastrophic event if we don't manage our water system correctly. So we're ready all day, every day of the year. Protecting public health and environment through testing, monitoring, and regulatory compliance. So as I mentioned, we don't just get to do whatever we want to do and do it as cheaply. We also have a lot of rules we have to follow, and we do a good job of that. His team does a good job of that. And it's not just the utilities department. We have permit center, recycling center, and Tim's held to permitting standards all across any work we do when it comes to stormwater or any intersection with state roads or anything that we do on signage or anything that crosses over into public health. A lot of that has to be managed in compliance with other laws that are above the town of Peterborough's own. We operate and maintain aging infrastructure, all types. I'll keep moving. Manage and secure SCADA and control systems for real-time monitoring and system reliability. If you're not familiar with SCADA, you will be tonight. Nate's going to give a brief presentation because we're hoping for some upgrades through the budget this coming year. We plan to deliver capital projects that extend asset life and reduce long-term risk. There's a few things being built right now or just got finished. I'll go through some of the projects that we're working on and that we've completed over the last year in a moment. And we support all other town departments and intermunicipal operations as needed. Pretty much if people don't know who to call, they probably call Tim first and then me. We get a lot of phone calls. We don't know what to do. Can you help us out? We have the equipment. We have a lot of people that are good with their hands and understand how to work in the field, and so we get a lot of calls, and we try our best to try and provide that service almost in a light construction capacity where we used to be a maintenance outfit to try and keep costs down. There's examples of that over the last couple of years with several other town departments. And of course, lastly, but probably most importantly, we respond to resident service requests, complaints, and emergencies all day, every day. We coordinate service connections, inspections, and construction support. And we communicate service impacts during outages, repairs, and capital projects. So again, I like to mention these things. They're not obvious in the budget, but it gives you an idea of the scope of work that we handle as a group And it's not just the public works group, it's a lot of town staff beyond just our core team. Next slide, please. We're working on a lot that doesn't easily fall into the budget, and I won't read them all, but as we talked about earlier to start this meeting, the Cold Stone Springs project was a major driver on the rate increases. That gave, I don't know what the number is, but let's say hypothetically, you secured the water rights for 200 years for this community. That's huge. Prior, we only had one aquifer. Amazing project, and we got it half grant funded, and the total project cost for a town, don't quote me on this, but let's say 25% of the total cost to get this thing online and moving water to the town was picked up by the state revolving loan. We refurbished the DPW building. Instead of building new, we did that for a fraction of the cost. Tim and I worked together, but Tim spearheaded that. I would encourage you to take a look at that building, particularly if you saw that building before we did the work on it. Completely different place. We wanted to provide a dry environment for our staff and a building that would withstand weather and other elements and give our staff a comfortable place to work going into the future. We also did the PCC at the same time. I'm sure many of you have seen that at this point. That was grant funded, so again, defraying costs, finding ways to get things done, and we bundled those projects together to save some money with our construction manager, who also is now managing the fire station project, which if you've driven down Elm Street, or if you lived in town for more than the last several weeks, you know has been a big topic, and we're, I would say 20% the way, 25% the way or so through construction on that. I'll be giving a more detailed fire station update in a couple weeks. We can get through the budget first, but I'll be happy to do that. I'm looking forward to it. Nate's team's working on lead inventory, so EPA mandate can come down to the community. Not a cost driver as relates to the rate stuff, but still a mandate where we have to go through the system and identify any sources of lead in the system and get those out, or start working with people to try to figure out ways. We're waiting for the next iteration of the program to know what was going to happen in the future as our potential outlay as a community. But we have an obligation that we're working through. It's taking a lot of time, but our guys are doing a really good job. Grove and Elm Street Bridge refurbishments, those are queued up for this coming spring. South Peterborough TIF project planning is probably 8 years in the works at this point. We're queuing up a water main project in South Peterborough. Lavacki Drive, we're going to do a drainage project this spring. Roadway system upgrades I'll talk about in a minute. We finished Pine Street this past year. That was a big one. I already mentioned the water main and pedestrian bridge. That's what I meant about South Peterborough TIF. We're getting into planning for the downtown paving. Since we've done a lot of the rural work, we're moving into the downtown. That's going to be a huge project. It will be disruptive, but I think we've positioned ourselves financially very wisely to get ourselves set up so we're not coming back to you asking for additional money on that. And I think that's an important thing to consider as you look through the budget, is that a lot of work has gone into priming us for the moment in time we're in now where we can get things done without saying, hey, we need another bond, we need another bond. We're trying to say we're close to our top end and we're moving our way down from there. We have to reevaluate the road program. I'll talk about that when we get to it. Stormwater inspections and related app development, I threw that in there because we're also working on long-term planning with Fosh's group on GIS, which I'm talking as fast as I can so he gets to present tonight. But I will show a couple slides on that, but it's important for me to mention it because our work would be more expensive and much more difficult and inefficient without the work of the GIS group and the amount of effort and investment this town has put into GIS systems over the last 20 years. Very huge. We would likely need more staff and it would take us more time to do what we're doing today. Sludge dewatering at the wastewater treatment facility. Talk a little bit.
What is that, sir?
Sorry?
Sludge dewatering.
When we get to the sewer budget, you're going to see a very large jump in the sewer operations. And we talk about it year over year where the amount of liquids that we're hauling out because we have to call in haulers to take the things we can't put out to the river, things that should maybe not be mentioned in the public, you know what I mean? Have to leave. And with that goes a lot of liquid.
They're old bugs.
Right. A lot of liquid has to go. Liquids are heavy. It's costing us a lot of money. So we're getting into, okay, and this is one of the things that we emailed about a little bit and we'll talk about in the budget. We need to look at how can we improve the efficiency of the wastewater treatment plant so we're sending out less liquid. There's a direct correlation to how much it's costing us to run that plant. It's a huge bit of the budget. So I'll talk about it when we get into the sewer budget, but that's when we get to that.
Thank you.
And then Utilities Department asset management enhancements, again, we'll get to that with GIS. And then 5-way intersection and River Street drainage evaluations ongoing. We did a little bit of work on that, but it's another project. Okay, ready to go.
Just real quick, the bond for Cold Springs, how many years is that? 10-year bond? Thank you.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Quick question. How far will the Grove Street Bridge
repaving be done? How far down Grove Street will it go? Will it go all the way, or?
No.
Just the bridge?
The bridge is being isolated. The bridge will be the construction zone. Top of my head, don't quote me on it, say 40 feet in either direction from the bridge abutments.
So it won't be all of Grove Street?
No. We'll be working detour plans and moving people over the Main Street bridge to get to the downtown.
Will that
when we get there.
eventually come into play, the whole Grove Street?
Yes,
Another year?
that's the downtown paving planning that we're
Okay,
gonna have
it's
to
in
get
that.
into. We've got some big decisions to make there, but as I said, we're primed right now for one strategy that we've kind of laid out, but we're very early in that process at this point, so more to come on that. A little quick primer, I've talked about a lot of this. I throw this up before we get into the administrative portion of the budget, so people understand what that is. The wide variety of things I handle, and it's not just me. I don't put that up there to say, look at all this stuff I'm doing. It's the superintendents, town administrator, finance director, support staff for each one of those people as well, handling this. These fall to me as the public works director, but it's not a one-person job. It's a lot of things happening. This is the depth of work that we handle, that you're funding from the operation budget to have someone in my position and people in these positions. So I won't go through all of it. It also includes the code officer. We can talk about that. So, onward, please. So the DPW administration budget, as I mentioned, I'll throw this up here rather than go line by line through that, which I can do with if there's specific areas that you want to go through. I try to extrapolate out the areas that I think are the most consequential to the budget one way or the other. In the case of the DPW administration budget, this budget's actually down, as you'll see from the sheet, and that's basically due to a loss of a position. So our former business manager position was folded into our assessing job, and we didn't rehire the business manager position, so that means that myself, Nicole, Lily, and the superintendents took on portions of that work rather than restaffing it. Okay, so that's really what's driving the reduction in administration. Some combined payroll, tax, and retirement. I added those numbers together. You're not going to see 5,069, but if you add them up, they should total. Telephone costs, reduction. Those are based clients per person. If I understand, it's not a number that I actually budget, but I know it's handled through looking at what the individual cost is per person for if they have a cell phone, if they have a desk phone, what the degree of licensing is per person for their desk phone, and so on and so forth. So we see a reduction there.
That's a huge reduction.
It is a huge reduction. Anybody else can give a better, more eloquent answer to the huge reduction than me?
Tanya Rose in my office worked very closely with Fosh a couple months ago at retooling and making sure that every single phone number that's assigned to every single person is being assigned the cost to that department, where that wasn't occurring before. So this year's current budget was using figures that were adjusted several months ago with the work between Tanya Rose and Fosh. So there are some departments that increased. We didn't get rid of phones. We just are being more accurate with the exact. And additionally, Gretchen Ray is no longer in this budget.
So the actual cost in the prior year was 7,000 plus?
Spent in other departments. There were phone lines that were being charged to the General Services Administration budget that shouldn't have been.
Postage is small, but it shows a commitment to trying to reduce things down where practical. If we don't need the money, we don't need the flexibility on the budget line. Probably some of that has to do with reforecasting based on the postage that moved over with Gretchen's position as well. And then staff development, we had budgeted additional funds last year for code officer to attend conference trainings, which we're not anticipating doing this year, so we removed from the budget. So a couple targeted increases. You're going to see that computer service line keeps creeping up all over the budget. I mean, it's up here and there, and that's Interware, BSNA, and other licensing that we get. We understand what our costs are going to be, and we load them into the budgets. Those costs are just going up. They're allocated across the organization. So there's the allocated portion for myself and Mr. Hurley. Inspection services, level funded. You'll notice we haven't spent money out of that in prior years. That is money that we've put in the budget consistently, so in case we ever need third-party outside review of Tim Hurley's work, whether it's directed to us by a legal proceeding or whatever we would need to do that for, because we need someone with that professional credibility outside of our organization to weigh in. We've carried that money in the budget, and it gives us that, should we need it. If Danica were here, she could also speak a little more eloquently about that one, but that's essentially what that's in there for, and we'd like to carry that forward. And then all other categories are largely level funded. So what you see is a reduction of 13.2%, achieved primarily through lower personnel and communication costs, administrative support maintained while controlling overhead, which is a prevailing theme as much as we can throughout the budget. Any questions on administration, or I can move on? Yes.
Quick question, Seth, on the personnel. You mentioned Gretchen Ray's position that was eliminated. What is your current staffing? Do you have vacancies? What's going to happen in the current fiscal year?
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We are not planning to we're not going to hire another business manager.
No, I'm talking about other
yeah.
places in the department.
In the administrative portion, no. It's work being shared between myself and other department heads that sort of fit in that Venn diagram. So, nice way of saying I'm taking on more work. Nicole's taking on more work. Next slide. General services. I'm not going to read all this, I promise. We've got to keep moving here. The highway division does more than snow removal. They do stormwater and drainage system work, roadside mowing, brushing, tree work, sidewalk, curbs, pedestrian infrastructure, maintenance of all those things, traffic control, signs, guardrails, pavement markings, fleet and equipment maintenance for DPW and other departments, streetlight management, support for town departments, events and emergency responses, customer and resident services, and so on and so forth. So more than you can see within this budget. Again, and that's the point I try to bring home, is that there's a lot of work outside of they cut down some trees, they plow some snow, they pick up some snow. They're responsible for maintenance of all town facilities, grounds, roads, and anything else they're called upon to do, and they do a darn good job at it. There's a picture of the new highway garage, refurbished highway garage in the bottom right. Not a great picture, they're actually still working on it. And it occurred to me I didn't actually take a final picture of it when I was trying to upload this, but it looks a lot better than it used to. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Like I said, they also handle facilities, parks, and cemeteries, all aspects of maintenance, which totals about 37 acres of land that they have direct responsibility for maintenance of. In some, we do hire out a little bit of our downtown mowing, a little bit of mowing, but for the most part, handled by Tim and his staff. Next slide, please. So there were some significant outliers in the general services budget, and I'll get to those in a moment. So what is this budget? It's 10 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, and I believe, I meant to ask you this if we were still loading up 3 part-time positions in that. That's what we had traditionally done. So I'm fairly confident in those.
Yes.
Thank you. So, the outliers. Repair and maintenance of vehicles, $24,000. Diesel, fuel, and gasoline, you're going to see are up across the board. I don't know if you'd already spoken to those in a previous meeting. Lily and her group they forecast down to the gallon use, and they go with the best available information that they've got for what pricing looks like right now and into the future, and continuously update that as the budget goes on. Right now, expecting pricing to be up, and consumption's a little bit up. Consumption has crept up year over year over year, as I said, because in one sense we've stopped being strictly a maintenance organization and we've also become a light construction organization. It's hard to see that in the budget, but we've also avoided costs. We use the trucks, we use the equipment, but we were actually hired out for less construction work than this department used to in the past. So repair and maintenance is one of a couple areas of this budget that was identified as a vulnerable cost area and was increased to better reflect actual fleet needs. It's a professional way of saying we've historically under-budgeted this and we've tried to work with what we've got. Lily did a lot of work and deserves a lot of credit to try and level fund this budget with some of the anticipated increases in other departments that you're already aware of. And then through that drill came back to me and said, listen, I want to put some money back into this budget. This has always been a problem for you guys, while still meeting our budgetary goals. So in doing so, we identified vehicle repair and maintenance, which can fluctuate wildly depending on one catastrophic failure of a piece of equipment. We also identified winter plowing services. Those prices can fluctuate very quickly. If our contract bid price for Depot Square goes up next year, if our haulers that we hire out to subcontract for hauling snow decide that they're not getting paid enough money anymore, we've got to come up with more money. And of course, if it snows at the level it's been snowing this year, we're gonna see increases there. So I say vulnerable because these are these areas of the budget that we don't really know what's gonna happen over the coming year, but have often found ourselves in a position where we're trying to make best with what we've got available for money in the budget. These would be logical areas to put some money in the budget to allow us the flexibility that we need to do our work without dipping into other areas of the budget. That makes
Just
sense.
quick, if I can just real quickly. We're looking at like the December 18th updated budget. Are these numbers reflected in those, or are there some
He's
changes that
showing
we should
the
be aware of?
increase, so for example, the winter plowing services, this year is a $70,000 budget line, and the proposed budget is $92,000, so he's showing plus $22,000.
Sorry if I
But the
wasn't.
December 18th is still accurate. as
Yes.
far as-
Yes.
that's-
Yeah.
that's what-
We're not going to update the budget until we get through all the department presentations.
Yeah, just showing you the variance.
Right.
Let's see. Salaries up. Did you previously, and I apologize, talk about cost of living and merit?
Yes.
In the last, so the same logic holds across all public works budgets. I won't go through it, but the math, once Lily and her group do their work, comes out to what I'll show on the screen if it's shown as an outlier in the budget. Road maintenance, I mentioned already as a vulnerable area. Our salt and sand showing a slight reduction, paving services level funded, and I'll talk about that when we get into capital, but the winter plowing service is the area that we're often saying, why Tim comes to me in February and says, I really hope we have enough money. People are starting to complain their contracts aren't valuable enough. I don't know if we're gonna, we do this every year. So, that's why we're putting it in front of you. It's been a challenge for us. Utilities costs, you're gonna see that as a trend week over week through the budget process on electricity, heating, fuel, water and sewer rates. Obviously, we're not charging ourselves a discount rate either. We're paying the new tiered rate as well. And then cemetery operations, we showed, this is Lily's work, the best you can do, trying to come up with the best guess.
It's just an increase of 2 more dead people being buried in town.
But it's important to mention that it's an offsetting. It's an offsetting.
I think that's a pretty low number.
So there is an offset there. Those are fees that are paid to do the work, the unnecessary, the unfortunate work that has to get done. So, any questions here before I keep cruising along? Okay. So a couple offsetting reductions. Community center came out of the budget entirely. Street lighting, expecting lower electricity costs due to how those are being grouped in with, again, net metering program, am I correct?
No, that's community power.
That's just, it's community power, but because of the conversion to LED, I think that's where your reduction is. No?
No,
Actually, I thought what you told
converted.
me is that.
Years ago. The
Because of the
supplies
more
went up,
expensive.
the electricity is what I'm
Oh,
showing
that's the
here.
electricity,
The
yeah.
supplies were level funded, you questioned, if we haven't spent it, why would we put
No, I
it?
think what you had shared was that for the lighting, we've moved to LEDs, and it was more from a supply replacement standpoint, that they're more expensive
Right.
to replace.
Right. That's talking about the electricity, but you're absolutely right. It's that we had increased it, but we don't know how many are gonna break, however, we knew there was a number right now that needed to be replaced. But I didn't call that one out because it was level funded year over year.
I think that just captures since you did the LED replacement, because we do a multi-year look back, it's just starting to catch up now in reduced amounts.
If anyone's of interest on that, we can dig in a little
Yeah,
further.
we can dig more
too,
into
not-
it.
So,
Yeah.
I used the average kilowatt hours for the last
Yeah.
5 or 6 years.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And it's
Yeah.
so getting an annual average,
Yeah.
multiplying it by the Eversource rate.
Right.
I'm
And
sorry, the
since,
community power rate.
exactly, and since cutting over to LEDs, it's a reduced
Mhm,
cost.
a
It's just
reduction.
taken a couple of years for that
Exactly.
projection to catch up with it.
And some administrative savings across operations, small, but reduced overtime, advertising, mileage, and retirement costs. I did gloss over one unintentionally in the last slide, which was call-in time, so a reduction in overtime, but the number of winter events that trigger the definition of a call-in which is actually defined in our union contract with the Teamsters who work for us, has increased. And you probably see why. We're getting a lot of smaller precipitous storms that require a call-in, that require 3 hours or less attention. Is that a good way to put that? I mean, I know they're often more, don't get me wrong. He's been here since 9:30 last night, but we're seeing more call-ins and less otherwise scheduled overtime or work that gets pushed into overtime. Would you add to that, Tim?
That's exactly, I think it was more per the contract wording is how we decided to take away from the overtime and put it into the call-in time,
Right.
so that we allocated it correctly per
Right.
the contract.
Right.
But, yeah, so
Is call-in time always overtime, though, or no?
No,
Not necessarily.
usually is, but no.
Usually is. Okay, so takeaway, FY27 increases prioritize historically underfunded high-risk service areas like fleet maintenance and winter plowing. We did miss one more thing, rentals and leases. Due to an error on my part, we had coded some bills the wrong way, so we had captured those and put, we had forecasted too much money on rentals and leases. We're actually going to journal those expenses from the current budget out to the projects they supported, and we're going to reduce the rentals and lease line back down to our historical level of about $4,000. Whether 4,000 is enough, I don't know, because we don't know what could break and what we would have to rent, but just pointing that out. So in the next budget draft that you'll get, once some changes, I don't know how many, usually it's a couple weeks and then a new draft goes out.
We're gonna wait for all presentations.
All presentations, you'll see that lower cost reflected in rentals and leases, several $1,000s. Overall growth remains controlled at 5.08%, fits in with prescribed overall town budget goal for the FY27, while addressing vulnerable areas of the general services budget. Any more questions for general services outliers, or any other question you may have glancing at your budget sheets?
I guess just the services line there, I'm still a little bit confused. That had traditionally, well, it was 93. Way back then, 45, 43, now 80,000 is this year, and then going forward 80 again. And is that like a really big umbrella of areas that covers, services?
It's a catch-all for any service related. If you could go back to the last slide so we can have the context. If you are referring to, did I not put it up?
No.
Repair and maintenance? I was certainly meant to. Hold on.
I'm on page 26, first line there.
Services, $80,800, yeah. I mean, we're pulling budget year over year, which is why I didn't capture it as an outlier. Tim, could you talk about the general services, operations services line, and some of the things that go?
it's a huge umbrella for everything, facilities and general services. All your contracts come out of there for any of your service contracts, your HVAC, your cleaning, all your tree work, which is your annually $10,000 a year right there.
Sometimes more.
Yeah, we popped it up almost 100% for this current budget, and then we're carrying that forward. I was just curious if...
I think it's also used discretionally for, as kind of like...
Any other service-related, non-winter service-related expense?
It's a huge umbrella for...
Lily, I think you had something to add.
And to help understand why it's being maintained at 80,800, currently we have spent 32,100 already out of this year's budget, which if you're looking at FY24 and FY25 as an indicator of what might be spent, we are looking at current spending, not historical spending. In the contracts that we have in place.
There's another bit, I think you said we had previously propped it up and now we're holding it. We also had collapsed the buildings and grounds budget services line into that, but we don't actually have a service line under facilities. So it's actually a catch-all for any service-related repair for buildings as well, although it doesn't fit neatly. And I do remember that was kind of we thought it was redundant, but it didn't fit neatly. So we put it under general operations. So it's also catching anything that happens on buildings.
So that could be kind of right.
Are any of the services billed as labor? Is labor in services, or is it other than labor?
Anything under a contract, so
Not our-
it's not our labor cost.
Outside.
Ours is just salary lines, related personnel expenses. This is all outside service contracts and work that we have to contract to support the community.
Can you break it down like winter services versus non-winter?
Well, we have a winter services line. This is not winter.
Oh, this is not.
This is everything else.
This is everything else. So this would be,
This is your mowing.
yeah, if
Contracts.
the boiler were to go completely out here at the townhouse, we'd be hiring someone to come in and repair that.
Fire alarm testing comes out of that
There's
line.
annual testing, there's annual monitoring, there's rodent control for all of the facilities. As Tim said, minimum 10,000 on tree work. We can get into 10,000 pretty quickly with a tough weekend of wind. Say again?
Road grading.
Right, so, and then, of course, the things that we can't predict, the tree falls on the roof of the police department or something, and we're hiring a roofer to come in, it would come out of that line as well. So, some costs are static and easy to predict, some not so much when it comes to the services line. So yes, I think your suggestion is an umbrella account is a good way to put it.
Did he answer most of your other questions, Bob? I know that there's some back and forth. Anything else you wanted to?
No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that what was helpful is understanding that some lines were collapsed, and that explains the turnpike, I believe. That wasn't necessarily obvious from looking at it. And on general services, the other point that I had asked him about was the rentals and leases, which was an error that you'll be taking down.
Right.
Thank you.
Are we good to move on to recycling? A little less variation in recycling than general services this past year. I already mentioned that we process over 2,000 tons of waste on average. The groundwater water program sort of falls in here because it doesn't really fit neatly in another place, but it's not really part of core recycling operations, but I will talk about that in a moment. Next, please. So, as the board knows, we went with a new provider for hauling our waste out of the facility, and we saved some money there. It's still volatile, it's still difficult to manage, but we saved some money, and it's reflected in the sanitation and recycling contract line. Recycling operations section of the budget is down 8.3%, but it ends up being a reduction of $26,740. Hold that thought. Personnel costs up a little bit, again, cost of living and merit increases, reallocation of expenses for telephones already discussed, rentals and leases eliminated, another $2,200. Again, I probably didn't say this, I'm sure it was discussed last week, but we do the best we can to forecast based on the expenses that we have year over year. If we don't need something, we're willing to take it out of the budget, and we're certainly trying our best as the year goes on to not spend money if we've got another way to do it. I think we've demonstrated that, and it does show variance in the budget, but flexibility is also very helpful. Electricity up a little bit for the facility based on forecast, heating fuel up a little bit for a marginal increase. And recycling vehicle maintenance, last year we bought new teeth for our crusher bucket, which we purchased, so we removed that expense from the budget again. We didn't see a need to leave that in there. Supplies, that's the $7,500. Sorry, I wrote this a little funny. So the net change is $7,100, but it's driven by the $7,500 that we had in the budget for that piece of equipment. Repair and maintenance lines are held flat. Diesel fuel's up a little bit. Before I move too quick, just so you know, again, context, because I moved this to a new spot, so I keep glossing over it. And I glossed over it in general services, which I want to mention real quick, but we have 3 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee at the recycling center, so that's what this budget handles. Can you run back to general services real quick?
You did cover it.
You did.
Did I mention the staffing? I didn't recall saying that, but I did, because I questioned myself on the, yeah, okay, thank you. Moving on. Next slide, please. Hazardous, so that hazardous waste line is up. We get a forecast from the city of Keene. This is for the household hazardous waste program. We don't take chemicals at our facility. We're not licensed to do so, but Keene does. And so we pay a fee to participate in their program, and then it gives us how many weekends we get as Peterborough residents, Peterborough and Sharon.
You get about...
Is it every third week?
10? I was thinking, well, I can't remember.
10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10.
summer into fall.
Yeah. But it ends up being 10 weekends. Sometimes they've been able to get grant money and we don't end up needing the full amount and we pay out less, but they send us a letter that says this is what the program's gonna cost. And so that's what we budget based on.
You'll get charged on a household level, it's just a flat fee that they
You
charge?
get to use it as a Peterborough resident, you've already paid for it. Or we as a community have paid for it through that line in the budget. They've been really good to work with on this, because oftentimes they'll say, oh, the program's gonna cost $8,500, and then they end up billing us $4,300 for the year or whatever. So, in any case, please don't put your chemicals down the drains at your house. Please. Stormwater, just take them to Keene, you can do that. I know it's a hassle, but you can get rid of it responsibly. Only to drive over, but I think some people maybe are costing us money at the wastewater treatment plant. So in any case, you have that available to you, should we keep it in the budget. Post-closure ground monitoring, we do talk about that. I wrote separate budget. It's, like I said, it's within recycling, but it's really not a core recycling. It's the groundwater monitoring for the Scott Mitchell landfill and the EMS landfill. We're expecting that price to go up. That's based on what we understand the engineering firm's rates to be, but also some regulatory changes. We have to test to a higher degree. There are some changes that are mandated from the state. The cost is reflected in the budget. We're expecting that to go up a little bit. And then second to that, and we talk about it every year, and Lily's been warning year over year over year, New Hampshire Ball Bearing had previously put some money, no, I'm sorry, I know I misspoke on this earlier. She almost
Would you like me to speak?
Go for it,
Okay.
please.
So, years ago, the fine that was assessed to New Hampshire Ball Bearings, the monies were placed. No?
No. No, it's even more complicated and crazy than that.
I will leave that.
It is proceeds from a settlement. It was not New Hampshire Ball Bearing. It was from Aries Engineering. Those funds were put into an expendable trust fund to help pay for the ongoing groundwater monitoring. New Hampshire Ball Bearing is also, by a court-approved agreement, responsible for 50% of that groundwater monitoring costs through all of that. It was very complicated. It went on for a number of years. Fortunately, I was not here at the time, so I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But at the end of the day, New Hampshire Ball Bearing is responsible for 50% of the groundwater monitoring costs. Peter is responsible for the other 50%. We had that expendable trust fund thanks to the settlement with Aries Engineering. That was paying the town's monitoring costs for, I want to say it was almost 20 years. It might even have been longer than that.
Until this past year.
What's that?
Until this past year.
Until this past year, when we finally fully expended it. So that's why it's now being fully loaded into the town's budget.
Do we go back to New Hampshire Ball Bearings at all and say, hey?
No, they have done nothing, nothing to cause us to revisit that agreement. They have upheld their half of the bargain, so.
They're still responsible for a portion of costs related to a specific engineering firm on one of the sites.
Yeah.
Got that part right?
There's
Yes.
landfill monitoring being done at the EMS site and Scott Mitchell Road. There's two separate agreements, is that they will split the cost of only Geo Insight monitoring. Geo Insight is the vendor that is doing that work. The other contract for EMS does not specify a vendor, and it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So you see in the revenue budget that those revenues for those two monitoring situations are billed to New Hampshire Ball Bearings, and they pay us once a year, and that figure is it's about $30,000, if I could put my hand on.
28,344.
Yeah, you see it?
28,344. Page 5.
And it depends, there's variation in the groundwater monitoring that gets conducted on an annual basis. Some years it's a much lower cost product, some years it's a much higher cost product, depending on the type of reporting that has to be done in that year, so that's why there is a bit of variation.
Are Scott Mitchell and EMS stable?
Yes. Yeah, they're nothing surprising. So far as, no one's brought anything to my attention. Now, I see those reports every year and I really could not make heads or tails. I just know what the words to look out for are.
But the regulatory environment becomes more
It's changing.
It does year over year over year.
Right, regardless of the staff.
Right. So you may be doing well today, and then the EPA down through NHDES says we're gonna make this more restrictive, and your cost goes up. So that's exactly what's happening here, is that we have to test to a higher frequency now, not because we triggered something, but because the testing standard is now higher on the specific one. So, like I said, regulatory driven, not part of recycling operations, tax supported to a higher degree than previously because that lawsuit money has been exhausted, but still a contribution from NHBB for that vendor for a percentage of the work. So I mentioned it here because it's in the recycling budget, although it doesn't fit really neatly otherwise. So takeaway, recycling operations maintain 3 full-time employees, 1-time position, while reducing total costs for core recycling and disposal efforts. Contract savings more than offset personnel and utility increases to the total core recycling budget when you extrapolate out pay as you throw, and the post-closure is down 7.7%. Didn't put a specific slide together for pay as you throw. It's supposedly a self-sustaining program. You buy the blue bags. The fee that you, after the town's cost to procure the blue bags goes into to pay the disposal costs. Now, what we're seeing, and something that we're going to be digging into, is the pay-as-you-throw program has gone up for a couple of reasons in the budget. One, it gives us the flexibility to spend money that we make through the blue bags, correct? Second, though, we have to look into this more, but it's as if, once again, disposal habits are changing a little bit. So we've enforced our demo container more than we had in the past, and we're seeing a reduction there. But we're seeing an increase, as far as I can tell, looking into it very briefly, in the behavioral patterns of how much stuff's going into the blue bags. So it's kind of like every time we change a fee or we make a change, we're chasing that program around a little bit. We've been doing it since we raised the price of bags, and then the volume of bags we were selling went down by a considerable amount, and then we couldn't make the money we were looking for. We ran out. So, yes.
All right, is there any sense that people are using blue bags to break up their big trash that they would normally pay by the pound? Is there a trade-off there?
I don't know.
I saw a lot of multiple blue bag deliveries.
Hey, what are your thoughts?
Anecdotal.
I think people are putting more trash per bag. People used to carry, and Darren can correct me if I'm wrong, but people would carry a bag in each arm, and now they're carrying a over full bag. So they're getting their money's worth, because the tonnage hasn't gone down, what we ship out, just the sales have gone down.
And they need to be basically one-to-one for us to keep the program moving. So in any case, I mentioned it, I didn't put a special slide up for it. It's voted on as a special revenue fund at town meeting. We keep sputtering along with the blue bag program, it's the best I can say at this point. So.
As the revenue ticked back up after that big increase, it dropped down dramatically. Have we seen an increase again, or?
I think we've been barely keeping it afloat since that time.
Dave, did you have a question then?
No.
And has been supported through the budget otherwise if we've had to get the trash out of the community. So it's been a tough one. Though I don't think there's much of an appetite to talk about any more fee increases at this time, so. Everybody's shaking their head.
I got my water bill today.
All right, any more questions on recycling? Thank you. The utility division is the water and sewer departments. They're handled by the same staff, but they do two separate tasks. They're cross-trained. We do have some people that specialize in one or the other, but they work as a team of people handling both water distribution and cleaning that water, putting it back into the environment.
I do have a question about that. I know there's an administration section for water and an administration section for sewer. So do you just divide it in half, or how do you, if they're all working together? I was just curious, if they're all working together, how do you handle that?
Seth's salary is split over general services administration, water administration, and sewer administration. So the reason that there's a reduction is that Gretchen Ray was also split across those 3 budgets. She is no longer the business manager for that department any longer, so that's why you're seeing a reduction there. It's a removal of Gretchen.
Yeah, I was more asking, when I'm looking at water administration and sewer administration, I was just curious about this, because you just mentioned that they all work as a team.
Sure.
just how we allocate, because it is separated in the budget.
Yeah, if you're talking about, so.
Seth is in the administration
Yeah.
budget. The
And there's no
operations
other-
is all the men in the field.
So the administrative component used to be myself and the business manager, a percentage of our time being allocated to those, but the core staff is in the personnel expenses under operations for both. But I think what you're asking is, how do you then figure that out if they're the same group?
Yeah.
And we do that looking at payroll records to figure out the best we can, who's spending. So for instance, our chief wastewater operator is, I believe, 100% sewer at this point, and he wasn't years ago. He's strictly devoted, so the salary line in sewer, his salary is fully loaded there. But Nate's time is split, I believe 50-50 at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's the superintendent overseeing the whole thing, and he's in both worlds all day long.
So you're really just looking at each person and figuring out where they, how to split up, if it's appropriate to split.
Right.
Okay.
And they've changed year over year as positions have sort of changed, or Nate's moved someone closer towards, hey, I want you to dedicate more of your time. So-and-so becomes a 70-30 and vis-a-vis. So you're trying to constantly get it right and capture it as accurate as possible. But a little tough when you're not. We have a sewer team and we have a water team.
And Seth, if I may, there are also now hours allocated to Cold Stones Springs for salaries as well, using the baseline of just the last 3 months of how many hours in which personnel were working at that site directly. So some of that's been pulled into there as well.
Does it require a full-time person at Cold Stone Spring?
No.
It does not, okay. That's how it is. So there's some part of a person put in here for salaries.
Right.
They keep track of their time.
Sure.
And then write it on their time card, how long they spent there.
And what about Jaffrey? Does Jaffrey have a similar thing for their side of things, or?
We operate the Cold Stones under agreement with them, and they pay us for the percentage, to put it as simple as possible, they pay us for the percentage of their use of that facility. They pay us back for our labor to run the
And I
facility.
understand is that 50-50 of the operating
There's
expense?
fixed costs, it is 50-50 for consumption-driven costs. It is a prorated figure based on how many gallons we consume and how many gallons they consume. And I'm able to get that from Nate. It's a monthly bill that goes to Jeffrey.
So we have 59,000 coming in, offsetting the expense that we have on the operation.
And we have very limited experience running the facility at this point, so this will be refined. But I think with the information we had at this point, the best we could do right now, given where this thing went online, right up to the budget, this will be refined because we'll have a year by the time we get to next year, but doing the best we can with what we have for information. So great segue into that first line on the top. You're seeing a whole new section in the budget for Cold Springs, which our estimates right now, based on what Lily just described, is $148,440 with some offsetting revenue from Jaffrey. That's to run the Cold Springs facility. All aspects of the Cold Springs facility.
What percentage of the town's use is coming out of there right now?
Do you know that, Nate?
So far, we've taken 8 million gallons. I don't know what that equates to.
Call it 180 million, whatever that math works out to. Well,
Yeah.
8 million since you went online. 4
Right.
million a month. 48
Yeah.
of the 200. That's our best guess at this point.
But is it structured?
We've had issues with the pumps over there, so I really
Okay, so it
don't
hasn't
know.
stabilized?
No, not yet. And it's not automated yet, so we turn it on during the day and shut it off before we go home. But once they get that tied to SCADA, then it can run on its own, and we would use more water.
Just the most recent example of how hard it is to finish a construction project. 99% there, and there's always this one thing we're currently working with the contractor and engineer on, trying to get this one thing done. Very difficult, but we'll get there. SCADA system upgrades, I'll kind of pass the mic over to Nate to talk about this. It's a big budget item.
So when SCADA first started, everything was on phone lines. It was super expensive. Someone made the decision in 2000 to swap that over to radios.
That acronym is?
SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's just our computer system that controls the whole wastewater plant and everything out in the system, whether it be the booster stations or the sewer pump stations. It monitors the tank levels, the 4 tanks that we have in town, and it's eventually going to monitor the pool too.
Which allows them real-time monitoring control of all aspects of the water and sewer system from a remote location.
So those radios were put in 2000, and all except for, I think, one of them is 25 years old. So it's time for them to get updated. And in order to do that, we have to update some of the PLCs, which is what talks to the radio. And it's gonna cost, I think, is that for both water and sewer?
That's just water.
So it's gonna cost double that.
It's a little less than the sewer based on the budget estimates, but all of $200,000 is what I think we had loaded in.
But currently, right now, we have issues with some of the radios. The guy, our SCADA guy, he said that it's not worth putting another rebuilt radio in. It's not gonna do what it needs to do. The radios that we have, years back, they narrow banded. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but I think that they told me that they weren't even sure that was gonna work. It did work, kinda. So we're overdue to swap these out and upgrade the radios.
Can you speak to running the systems in the absence of a SCADA system? So if we allow it to go completely obsolete and fail, what does that do to the department? I mean, I think it's an important thing to consider because these are high-tech systems that are now, this is really ingrained in how you operate. And from my perspective, you need more staff, more gas, more mileage, more field work. I mean, there's just.
That'd be like shoveling the whole town without a pump truck.
So during the ice storm, we found out how important SCADA was because it's the Sandhill tank. That is a repeater for pretty much everywhere. Without power up there, we had to go to every station every hour to make sure that things were working and things were pumping. So without SCADA,
we're out of propane at the same time, so.
Yeah.
Good thing you had eyes on that.
Yeah, so thanks, Nate. So in terms of SCADA, which, it's clearly a big investment, both water and sewer. So when I see, in my group water, I see 116,000. Is that a one-time? So
yeah, that should last for years. I mean, I'm gonna guess that the radios made today aren't the same quality as the radios made 25 years ago, but they should last years.
Okay. All right, so we had very small expenses in that line, and then all of a sudden this big bump. So what do you anticipate it going back down to after we make this investment?
After we make this investment, we have other stuff at the wastewater plant that is not that old, that is already obsolete, and we have to upgrade. I don't know exactly what that cost is, but I think it's gonna be close to that dollar amount for wastewater only.
So we're kind of in for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Is that doing the CIP at all?
We don't have CIP for utilities.
CIP.
Software, is that why it's in operating?
So the software, it's not, it's hardware, but it's hardware, software, and labor. We can't do it, so we pay someone to do it.
Yeah, but I guess to the capital question.
The utilities are not part of the capital plan.
These are enterprise funds, so you're not setting aside money through taxation into capital reserve funds.
It's the rates.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Eversource is going to close, shut the power off in the town Thursday, or that's one of the plans. Does that affect your plant at all?
No, we have backup power at every station.
Eversource is shutting power off?
Shutting power for 4 hours.
What?
Yeah, we got a letter.
Yeah, I got the letter.
This is the whole town. It implies the whole town.
Nope. What time?
I think
it's actually towards the end of the day. They work on
4 to 7 p.m.
4 to 7.
Normally we get a call from our rep on that.
I haven't gotten it.
It's right here.
I mean, it's on my calendar.
Maintenance outage required.
Something to follow up on tomorrow.
In this cold weather, is a question whether they should have power off at all.
I know.
Although Thursday's gonna be a warmer day, but that's an alternate day already. They've already canceled it once, and they're gonna cancel it again. There's an alternate day mentioned here as well for another day.
Yeah. Townwide?
It should be
Addressed to me,
Power.
us.
It's electricity and.
So it's electricity.
Yeah. And
Be your
yeah.
community to perform reliable work on the electrical system. The safety of crews performing will need to turn off electricity in the area. I don't know what that means.
Maybe that's.
Okay,
Over
all right.
west side.
Sorry.
West side.
Is this-
Al, are you
It
west
doesn't
side?
say west side, it says the area.
You can come over and sit in my heat there.
They have been doing a lot of lab
Sorry,
work.
I was just concerned about your outage, really, or if that was.
They didn't notify us that it was town-wide, and normally we'd get a call. We do have a
Yeah, I would
municipal
think so.
rep, and it would be a little strange of them not to give us a.
I waited for the
long lead
right
time on
moment.
that.
So we check the generators every week, make sure that they exercise, and we run them under load once a month. So,
Sure, yeah. Yes, sir.
Could you address the cybersecurity implications of the upgrade? In
For
general,
SCADA?
SCADA is an international standard. It's used everywhere for industrial control. It is a highly vulnerable system. If people remember the Stuxnet exploit with Iran, that was on a SCADA system that was penetrated and manipulated. And it's considered, one of the critical vulnerabilities of the U.S. infrastructure in general.
Absolutely.
Address this
Great question. I'm going to pass that to our IT director, who has spent considerable time on that specific topic.
I did. We did an assessment with one of our federal agencies down here. And I'll basically say we have it completely segregated and separated from the rest of the systems. And we isolate it away from the rest of the traffic of the world. Yeah, so we do address it, and part of this upgrade came out of that assessment. Plus it's old. But yeah, that's how we're addressing it. I take responsibility for the cybersecurity, so I work with all the vendors to make sure stuff's implemented, because I learned a long time ago, somebody has to take responsibility so you can get the things done, so, yeah.
the other thing that we do is we don't have chemical feed pumps tied to SCADA, so someone can't just turn the chemicals up. We have a lot of analyzers in the system and at the stations, so if something were to happen, we would get advance notice.
There's only a certain amount of things you can operate remotely at the facility, because we know of other things that happen in the world that they're able to turn certain things on, but they've kind of isolated those away. So.
It's a great question, thank you. Something to take very serious. So again, following the patterns here, electricity, based on forecasting done in Lily's office, salaries fall in line with, did you have a question, Al?
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
With this new housing apartment building coming online, would there be a surge, or are you aware that, are you prepared for that?
We have enough
Do you have enough
capacity, yeah.
But the
Yeah.
surge itself, that
They did reach out, and we can take that, sewer and water, yeah.
The sewer plant actually has a remarkable amount of capacity for growth. If we can keep the sewer plant in good shape over the next couple of decades, it could handle considerable growth without major modifications. However, that's more liquid, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Whether we can continue to pay for that kind of money just to haul things out that we could otherwise deal with.
You talked about drying the stuff, because they do it in somewhere else, in Jaffrey, I think, at one point. But we don't do that, and we probably won't do it, because you get it to a solid, which is less
We should do
expensive.
that,
We should.
yeah.
We'll talk about it in a second. We'll get to sewer, we'll look at that line, and then we'll have a nice chat about it. Let's see, anything else here? We already talked about the water administration cost realignment. Again, Gretchen, keep saying Gretchen, but really lost a business manager for Public Works Department, and those monies came out of the budget. Water operations services, down. SDWA, Safe Water Drinking Act, down. So a couple offsets in there as well. Trying to stay consistent with not budgeting for things that we don't necessarily need. And then core infrastructure maintenance levels core infrastructure maintenance level have been level funded, so water main, hydrant meter, main repairs are areas of the budget that we've held flat. So they had 27 increases driven by strategic infrastructure investments, Cold Springs well, with a partial revenue offset, major SCADA upgrades. I didn't mention, obviously, because it was year over year, not a big variance, but also this last year's budget, the present year's budget bond payment for Cold Springs, FY27 bond payment for Cold Springs, they're in there, but not a big variance, so I didn't call it out. But it's a driver. Staffing remains stable at 6 full-time and 1 part-time employee. Core operations showed controlled growth with some cost discipline, and our investments prioritize reliability, resilience, and regulatory compliance.
So does the SCADA thing hit our water bill again, if we approve that?
It does.
Well,
It's not hitting our taxes, it's hitting our water. So
my preference would be to, not necessarily, you can overspend the budget through the water commissioners vote, basically. I actually prefer to do that work in this budget, which would mean asking the water commissioners to allow us to overspend the budget to the total needed for the SCADA system upgrades. So we don't actually have to wait until next year. You can draw on enterprise funding to do that work. But to get these in front of you and start having this dialogue, we put them in the budget this year, but you do have options.
Yeah, so.
You have a fund balance.
So that 2025, 2026, it was 1.7, and 26, 27, this is all in sewer, 1.9. So most of that is SCADA.
Right. But that doesn't mean you have to increase rates, because you could draw fund balance, enterprise fund balance for that. And did you bring those with you, Lily, by any chance?
Sure.
Thank you.
This
Just
is why we did increase rates, so that we could do improvemements to our systems. What exactly are you looking for? Current
Just
cash
the
balance?
enterprise balances, yeah. Which is, there's still obviously collections and things coming out.
Current cash balance for water fund is $3,040,115.39, and sewer is $2,383,589.26. That's today's balances.
So,
And that's, we still have the rest of the fiscal year to get through. That's going to draw down some of that as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so.
And we just sent out bills
Yeah.
on Thursday. That would be the third bill that is coming into the cash reserves, even though it is the second bill of the fiscal year. But in terms of collections,
So that's not fully fund balance. There's some restricted amounts there as well.
oh, absolutely. It's cash balance.
but it illustrates that, in my professional opinion, that you wouldn't necessarily need to adjust rates again to fund critical upgrades for both systems, because I believe it's.
I just want to make sure there wasn't
You have
a little
money.
time bomb out there for, water bills in the future. Good.
Any more questions on water before we turn to sewer? Sewer treatment plant services, increased cost anticipated in hauling. So we've been hinting at that, and that's where you're seeing the cost in the budget. That's not the budget number, that's the increase to the budget number. And this is the services required to haul out all the stuff we can't treat and put into the river. Say that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen it tick up year over year over year, and every year we talk about this in this budget discussion, and we're seeing it again, and we're expecting an increase in hauling charges. We're expecting to, can't remember who made the point, Al, maybe it was you, we've got new developments coming online. We're gonna see some increased capacity, increased need for treatment at the facility. A very large campus was in the paper last Thursday. And the plant's gonna take a lot of that, so cost increase, again, hauling lots of liquid, and cost overruns. The board knows, Bonnie, you'll see this year, we're gonna try and keep under budget, but historically, how many years in a row have we overrun the sewer fund? I mean, we try our best, but costs like this are hard to contain other costs in the budget, and we have historically overspent the sewer budget year over year over year. We're trying to put a budget together that doesn't do that anymore.
Are we still accepting sewer from other towns, water, wastewater?
Septic, yeah.
Septic
Yep.
from other towns, okay. Is that
I think
balanced
last
out?
year we took in 3 million, I think. We're probably gonna take in 4 million this year.
Are you talking gallons?
Yeah, gallons
Yeah,
of,
not dollars.
There's no diminishing returns between how much we have to spend.
Gallons, sorry.
It's a substantial revenue, though, for a minimal amount of operational
that's right.
oversight in our park. We are a septic receiving facility, and we do make money on that.
And is it just from people from outside of Peterborough?
And inside of Peterborough, too.
And inside,
Yeah.
so anyone that's dumping from their septic?
We don't care where it comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the contract providers that do that work on private septic systems come to our plant. Pay a per gallon
You
price.
receive from RVs too, don't you?
Yeah, not much.
We don't charge them.
We don't check- I know.
Yeah, yes.
It is a service that we
Yeah.
provide as well.
Yeah.
Tyler has a question.
The lagoon sludge bags look pretty flat. Any way to fill those back up?
So we need to empty those now that we're on the radar with the state. So we do have a plan. We're gonna run it through the treatment plant. That'll save the town a lot of money if it works. We did a pilot study and it worked, so we'll start this spring again and hopefully it continues to work.
But as I started this whole presentation off, we're beholden to outside entities who have oversight on a regulatory level over what we can and can't do. So me stepping in and saying we're working diligently with our partners at the state, right, Nate?
Yes.
Thank you.
So there's no adding to those?
No.
No.
They want to know when they're gonna disappear.
Yeah. Which is good, because I think it means there may be a degree of flexibility for us to be able to treat them and get rid of them, but we're working through the process right now.
And they, in this budget of this year, we had a revenue projection of 160. This is septic, sewer septic fees. But then, but historically, it's, over previous years, it's more like 300,000. Now we're projecting 300,000. So I was just curious, what happened in this year?
So in the past, we essentially had one person dumping all of their septage there. So if he decided that he didn't want to dump septage there, that 300,000 would be gone.
And then what happened last year when it was 160? You know?
I don't know.
That's not last year, that's right now.
Current
That's
year.
this year, that's
Current
a
year.
budget number, it is not an actual revenue one.
Yeah, fair enough.
We don't have contracts with them, so I think I would add just it's great to have, and it's going to the sewer enterprise fund, but I can't be entirely reliant on it.
And that, did you discuss the services plus 32K, vulnerable area of the budget? Have we talked about that at all?
I've only made it through the top line so far. But that's, again, the hauling, if there was any questions about that, we do talk about it annually. And I will talk a little bit about something we're gonna try and do about that going forward, but, so we've also said this is something we really want to evaluate and try to get some solutions to potentially do a better job, to Al's point about what can you do with this to reduce the amount of liquids you have going out. And there are some potential upgrades you can make to your facility, but you've got to work with the engineering firm to figure that out, what works for your facility, but I'll get to that in a moment. So SCADA upgrades, Nate already talked about it. Any other questions on SCADA upgrades for the sewer side? I think we all understand that at this point. Sewer operations, $60,335. Personnel, overtime, call and standby, lab supplies. I kind of put all those numbers in together, doing our best to forecast what we understand the cost to be. Again, keep in mind, we've overrun this budget year over year over year. We have not budgeted enough money for sewer. We've adjusted the rates, which you mentioned it was to make upgrades, was also to pay for Cold Stone Springs on the water side, but it was also reflective of an accurate budget so that we're not going back to you in June of every year and saying, I need another $35,000 because we're not raising enough revenue and we're overspending because we haven't put enough money in the sewer budget to cover our actual costs. So, driven primarily by services identified as a vulnerable area of the budget. So, this is one of the ones that you had actually asked about in your email to me. And to your question specifically, Al, I'm just grabbing my notes on that. So we talked earlier about catch-all in the general services for services. And that's essentially what you're seeing here. And this is what I wrote to Bonnie, so I'll put that right on the record here too. The account covers a wide range of unplanned or specialized outside services for the sewer department and has historically experienced fluctuations. It's been recognized as a vulnerable area of the budget. This line has been increased to provide flexibility for unforeseen service-related needs. The sewer division has exceeded its budget several times in recent years, requiring special approval from the select board / water and sewer commissioners. By increasing funding in this vulnerable area and other vulnerable areas, we aim to ensure the department can carry out its responsibilities effectively while remaining within the overall prescribed budget allocation. So, it's a vulnerable area because we have limited control over sometimes when we need to call out for services. We've historically overshot this budget, and we're looking for areas that are vulnerable in the budget to boost this up to what makes sense, so we're not constantly having that conversation year over year. It's the best I can give you. I don't have historical figures that justify the need to, but we know we skip on services. How many times at the end of every year do you say, we really got to do whatever, and I go, can it wait till July 1st? We do it every year. You know, and that's part of the problem, is that we under budget certain lines. We've done it in general services, and we've definitely done it in sewer. And we go, let's wait for, and we're just kicking it to the next budget, and then we have the same conversation in May and June every year. So we're trying not to do that here.
Yeah, just to sort of put a, additional flavor on it, just to support what you're saying. In 24-25, this line was overspent by 228%. And then the next year, same, about the same, 228%. Now, it was budgeted at 17.6. So now it's up, but the actuals were 40 and 30, and now you're up to 50. So I think you're just trying to figure out where.
Trying to get there.
Where to anchor it.
Thank you, and also not have to have those difficult, let's wait till next budget, let's wait till after town meeting, we do that one too, we have an approved budget now, okay, go ahead and do the thing, have them build, so, I mean, it's not the smart way to run the business, honestly. I'll keep cruising along, we're getting late here. Sewer, buildings and grounds, electricity, same thing, that, obviously the plant draws, the system draws a lot of power, and the forecasts are what they are, this is what we come up with, an increase. Insurance, minor but notable. Sewer vehicle equipment maintenance, we just try our best to forecast based on what we know, but again, this is one of these sort of crystal ball, we're not entirely certain. We take good care of our equipment, but things still break. And we do our best to adjust those budgets year over year. Give ourselves the flexibility to do the work without having to wait or ask to overspend. Gas and diesel fits the current, the former comments. Offsetting reductions in cost control, again, the 17,751 is the loss of the business manager position. We're not refilling that position. It's been moved over to assessing, and you'll talk about assessing on another night, I believe. Some additional savings there as well. Increase driven by strategic operational infrastructure investments. Sewer treatment plant services and SCADA upgrades are the largest contributors. The budget reflects focus on reliability, compliance, and efficiency, and that's the truth. Any more questions about sewer? And I promise you I will haul through the last couple slides because we are going. We talk about recycling revenue every year. We do our best. These commodities, the pricing, correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, can change day to day, week to week, month. It's very, very hard to figure out what cardboard's going to be worth next July. So we do the best we can. Some things are more stable than others. Some things are going fine, and then there's literally no value in them. I will make one notable comment, and if you have any questions, Darren can grab the rest of them. The aluminum cans, we said if we built the cold storage, we'd be able to make full loads. Well, we're confident we can do that. We're actually able to store materials undercover, which we could never do before we put that cold storage building out back. So we do expect to make some more money on aluminum because we can actually make a full truckload once we get one together. So, any specific questions about revenue? And I would also pause here and say, if you had any other questions about other revenue sections, this has traditionally been what the budget committees and public have been more interested in, but we do have the other revenue section above it in the budget. We can talk about any of that if you'd like. Sure.
Glass?
There's no value in glass.
Right, there's nothing, no new news on what's happening to those glass plants.
Glass is
work in progress still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we're chipping away at the glass, and we plan to use it for in-house projects.
Really?
But that doesn't have a monetary value as a revenue.
So are these new teeth that you purchased for crushing all that, has that started happening, or?
Yeah.
Has it been effective?
Not anymore, but yeah, today, yesterday. We're going along with it.
They do
Trying to
work
use
much
it as
better.
what it is.
Mary? Is the Recycling Advisory Committee still in existence? And if so, what are they contributing to any of this? Either enhanced revenue, I know they help with the styrofoam.
I'm not sure they could do much in terms of enhanced revenue, just because that's just driven by a commodities market that we don't have much influence over, but Darren can speak. He's the liaison to that committee.
Yeah, I mean, they really can't help much with the revenue and all that in the process of everything leaving, but getting more things to come into the recycling center and keeping it out of the waste stream is really more what they're helping out with.
Maybe getting more people to buy stickers?
Well, that too. I mean, we buckled down last year and went full force with that, and we'll be doing that in February this year again.
I bought my two from you today.
I know.
You see it in the revenue line too. They've done a good job managing that. Yeah, it's really, I mean, the days of making money on recycling and offsetting much of the value of what you need for an operation, we're way in the rearview mirror on that. There just is not value there. The value really is in what he said. It's in reducing the amount of things that go to the landfill. It's philosophical for your community. What type of community are we? Are we trying to promote recycling, or are we trying to do it as cheaply as possible? And that's what it really comes down to. See, like I said, there's another section of, I didn't call out specific revenue for Public Works. We're not a revenue-heavy department. We make some, there's some revenues that come in from the TIFs, conforming to the TIF plans for mostly team's maintenance of those areas. And you see those in the budget. I think we saw a small increase on rentals and leases for the building this coming year. Beyond that, I'm not sure there's many outliers there in the revenue. So if there's no questions, I'll show you the last several slides in the next 5 minutes. Moving on. So quickly on the capital, and I'm only going to do the fleet and the roadway, unless you have questions, because we're getting late, and the roadway really matters because it's $450,000 in the operating budget. So if you could keep moving. Actually, I lied. I'm going to say one more thing, because I don't know if there's time tonight, but Fosh, I mentioned earlier in the presentation the work that the GIS team does, and I just wanted to show you a couple of pictures of what that looks like. There's many other apps he can talk through and things that help us to be a more efficient department, but it's become, over the years, an indispensable tool for the Public Works Department for us to locate to locate, to understand our system, to address critical failures, to build out asset management plans, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to show you a couple screenshots to share with me in the last couple of days of a couple of the different apps here, but also just quickly mention, because I think it's important context as you get into the GIS portion of the budget, some of the things that we're working on with his team over the next couple of years, which would be largely inefficient if we didn't have these technological systems available to us. You're literally talking about systems that reduce the number of people that we actually need to manage the systems that we own as a community. So, next slide, please. Pavement management. Year over year, you see $450,000 of preventative maintenance money in the budget. It's under the general services budget. We've held it. And the $400,000 warrant article request, which thankfully the community has supported. We do that for a specific reason, and we continue to ask for that funding for a couple of reasons, and I'll make this really brief. We evaluated the system 8-9 years ago, and we found that at that time, although this is probably inadequate at this point, but we're making do with it, $450,000 was enough for us to keep the roadway condition in the condition it was in presently. So if your rating was a 50, you could hold a 50, because you're always losing, you're always degrading asphalt. All assets are, but asphalt, we all know, you can pave it fresh. Pine Street will be a light gray color by next year, and you'll see your first cracking in like 16 months. And we're already falling apart again. It's incredible in New England. The salt, the plow blades, in the winter freeze thaw really wreaks havoc on asphalt. That number was sufficient, has been sufficient to give Tim the monies he needs to pave, chip seal, stormwater, catch basins, so on and so forth, maintaining the roadways. So we do a lot of lower end, that's not the right way to word that, cheaper ways to address better condition things. So we keeping asphalt that's already in decent shape in relatively decent shape. That's the easiest way I can sum that up. The 400,000 year over year has been used for investment in roadways that are already degraded to the point where they need a heavier level of investment. So we're gonna keep asking for that, and I'll talk about why in a second. I mentioned this too because it's important as we get into one of the strategic initiatives that I was talking about earlier tonight, that we do have an offset in the schedule for downtown paving where it fits within the downtown TIF, which will take a lot of pressure off the budget otherwise. Next slide, please. This graph shows, if you're not familiar with pavement degradation, why you want to invest in in your decent roads. Things that are in good shape, you can essentially take an excellent road and keep it fairly darn good by spending a minimal amount of money as opposed to the amount of money you have to spend by allowing it to degrade down to completely falling apart, potholes and all the stuff that happens when the subgrade of the road falls into total disrepair. So that's what the program is essentially trying to do. It's saying we use our 450 grand to keep our good roads in good shape, and we use our warrant article money, if granted to us, to repair the roads that we couldn't possibly use a cheaper alternative on. Next slide, please. So when we started, we were a 70.45 rating when we looked at the whole roadway network. We went road by road. We worked with an outside consulting engineering firm to come up with a way to actually come up with what's called an RSR value. And we baselined our roads back in 2017, 2018 at 70.45. When we finished our paving up Pine Street and a couple of miscellaneous projects, since we started the program, we've picked up using the same grading schedule, quite a significant increase up to 83.57. So it's just saying, rating your roads on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 is brand new. Pine Street the day after the contractor left versus a completely failed road that probably wouldn't be safe to be passed. Peterborough's rating comes out to an 83.57, so they can really, an incredibly successful program that I know that the General Services guys and Tim's going to do a lot of that work out in the field is very proud of. And I think our roads show it when you drive around this town. We have good quality roads. Next slide, please. Keep just flipping through and just to show you the level, the amount of work we've been able to do thanks to the funding. Keep on going. This is just year after year. Anything in the blue we would not have been able to fund without the warrant article, and which would have shifted some of this work that we can do preventatively into there, and then you're spreading money around trying to take care of bad roads and good roads, and essentially losing ground on your road network. Keep on going, and there's Pine Street finally built. We did it.
You got one more step. Put that final seal on it. I'm keeping an eye on this.
I don't know. I mean, we talked about electricity rates earlier. I'm not sure we're going to be able to.
That doesn't really look like Pine Street.
We can keep moving along. Every year we put some money in for sidewalks. We're planning on Granite and Concord Street. It's shown in there as stormwater separation too. It gives us a few dollars if we run into sewer intersecting with stormwater. We have to address that if we find it. We cannot ignore that. So we keep some money in the budget for that. Tim, would you like to talk about the fleet? Because I'm losing my voice. And you're very tired, but I'm almost done here.
The loader is at the point of failure at this point. If it's sitting at over 12,000 hours right now, and I'm afraid that if we don't replace it now, we're going to end up in a lease rent situation, which would just be more money wasted, really. And the way it sits right now, it has some resale value, so we'd be getting money back from whoever purchases, or whoever we purchase a loader from would buy that off of us.
What's the cost of the loader? What would a new one cost?
Loader right now is about $190,000.
And it's currently in the capital budget
Yes.
that you
Yep.
presented?
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
And we didn't change our funding level. The year prior, we had reworked the schedule to reduce our fleet. But the funding is consistent year over year, $300,000, which would be the warrant article if approved to move forward.
The one-ton truck in the middle is due for replacement, was an old buildings and grounds truck. Had a normal daily snow route every year. That one is projected to go to rec as a replacement truck for we kind of gave them our better than theirs, but not our best this year. So it was an upgrade for them for what they had, but we knew that that they wanted a dump body in there, so this one would do them good because they don't use it nearly as much as we would on a normal snow route or anything. And then the Ranger, as you can see, shouldn't even be on the road, which is
No more inspections.
What's that?
No more inspections.
No, yeah, that's true, but I don't think that qualifies for us.
We
Everyone else
also
is-
concern ourselves with the health and safety of the people driving.
So that is over. I think we purchased that overdue for.
It was not great shape at the time.
Yeah, it was.
But it served we've done well with it for short money. It's a custodial truck, basically. And I know there's some potential interest in seeing that be an electric vehicle in town too, so if we can make that work within our budget. I think the budget reflects that we may be able to, but it's hard to find a light-duty electric truck, so we'll see how that goes. I know there was one at one point, but I think they've been discontinued, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's what I heard. It's a little tough. It's not really what people are looking for. Any questions on the fleet for this coming FY27 15? Seeing none. Bridges and culverts. This is notable because it ties into the overall budget picture, but we did reduce the request from 200,000 to 200,000 down from 400,000, and we pushed the Pine Street cross culvert out to FY31. So we reduced the overall CIP request between now and FY31 by $1.45 million. We're trying. I mean, we have a lot of needs in this community, but we were asked to deliver a level budget. We're looking for the areas. We'll refine it if we have to because something changes. But at this point, as comfortable as I can be saying we'll keep an eye on it. We rebuilt the road. We know we need to come back at some point and address some stormwater issues. And we'll get to those in the future. So anyway, I wanted to point out that reduction because like I said, it plays into the overall bottom line as we look at the budget this year. Don't really need to talk about these, but just being mindful, there'll be some big discussions coming up about both Grove Street and Elm Street because I'm just about to go out to bid on that in the next week or so, and there will be some traffic issues in the downtown. So you heard it here first, but we will put responsible detour plans in place. We also have the old Dublin Road culvert for $485,000 in FY27. You already have the money. We've raised that previously. That's why we could reduce this down, but we should continue saving for the known and the unknown in the community, particularly for culverts. Bridges are a little easier to predict than culvert failures. And then the Pine Street cross culvert I already mentioned. So I think that's the last slide. And there you go. Did it. Yeah.
92 minutes.
That's probably that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Nice work.
Keep it under 100.
If you have questions, we'll handle them now. If you, like I said when we started this, please feel free to email. I mean, there's a lot of detail in there, and we're trying our best to show you the high level things, but there's a lot more in those budgets. So if you're curious about anything, please email directly, and then I will make sure I consult with the team, and then we send it out to the whole group. So
You did a very nice job answering the questions that you did get, so appreciate that. I appreciate your presentation tonight.
And I appreciate seeing the follow-up when there's an email to your department. And we get copied on some of the responses and some of the praise of the staff that take care of things. And I appreciate that.
I thank
On
you.
behalf of
Thank you. I mean, that's why I kind of caught myself, and I think that that's actually probably the most important element of our job. We do all these other things, but these guys are out in the field and they meet people at their front doors, and we handle issues that maybe in some towns or cities they'd say that's not our issue, because I think that matters for what we do for work. And it's not just the emails, it's out in the field too and helping people out. I really think that's really important and something that I know our team really cares about. Can't do everything for everybody. We do have to say no sometimes, but we try our best.
Okay, Fash, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Army.
Thanks,
Woodward. I also have Tim Brezovic, just in case I need him for details. He was here last week with me presenting the PEG proposal. But, I don't have a slideshow. That's okay. I just want to touch on a few budget items. My budget. We can start with PEG or GIS, the easy one. I'll start with PEG, unless there's preference. So PEG, Public Education Government TV. It funds the streaming and the television channel 22 if you have Comcast cable. And the revenue is purely from Comcast cable subscribers. So roughly 17,000 a year, 20,000. We don't know how many people subscribe, but we get a check every quarter. That's a fund, like an enterprise fund. It just accumulates. We're actually about to spend $48,000 that we approved last week. And sometimes we're not very good at planning our big projects, but we have a 5-year upgrade cycle. And in 5 years, you should see a big item in there for our next upgrade. We did an upgrade in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, and we have another one planned that we just got approved last week. So that's PEG. Again, no tax revenue. All that money, franchise money, needs to be spent on the TV station, essentially. Any questions on
Do
that?
you have enough money if, because people are not using Comcast as much as they were maybe a couple of years ago with streaming and...
Checks are still coming.
Hasn't been an issue?
Not yet.
Good.
That's the beauty of the fund. If we have no money, we don't do any upgrades. But there's still money coming in for right now. So.
It's like twice as much money in the fund already to cover the cost of the upgrade.
Good.
Yeah, it's just like when the fiber optics went in, it wasn't Comcast.
Right,
Correct?
Fidium.
It was
Fidium.
Fidium. So I think, I don't know if that's what you were.
That's what I was
referring
asking,
to.
if,
Yeah.
going forward, if that revenue
Yeah.
streams could be negative.
Yeah, when they cut out the cable TV, yes. But that'll be under our franchise agreement that's going to be in 7 years or 8 years.
I'm not sure where we are in that.
Yeah, so that's it's a much different ball field than it was 20 years ago. But yeah, that's PEG. Any questions on PEG? As far as GIS, the only budget item for GIS specifically is the capital reserve for $18,500. And that's an actual reserve account that came into play like in 2006, 2007. But that's the only specifically GIS. The rest of it is personnel, like all the apps we do, Julie and myself. Julie's actually broadcasting the meetings tonight. We do those mostly in-house. We do have some help, which I can talk about under services, but otherwise, GIS budget is only the capital reserve, which is funded right now $18,500 every year. And we do a flyover of the town where we take nice high-resolution pictures and then create the digital, or have a consultant create the digital land base, including topography, which we received 1 foot topo resolution last time we did it, which is very helpful for planning, public works, and all kinds of projects. So that's GIS. Any questions on that?
Yes.
Yes, Bill.
Line item, and this is just information for me. You have a on-call stipend.
Yes, IT.
What is that?
So that went into play about 2 years ago, and that essentially, first and foremost, that is for cyber response in the middle of the night. The one thing we learned about all these other incidences, you have about a half-hour window to start your response. So that's specifically what that is, but also, essentially, if something happens with the SCADA system, when they're doing something, they'll give us a call. So it essentially handles anything major that happens on off hours.
Okay. So it's like overtime.
Yes, that's a stipend.
That's all I had.
Okay. And we can talk about IT, since Bill segued into that. I'm not going to cover every budget item, but there's some points I want to make on some of the line items. I'm going to start with services as far as talking points. Let me know if you have any other questions, though, for items above that. So the services item, I want to point out this is a line item that's meant to help us with consulting services, including security services and security assessments, and also a little bit of GIS, like what I mentioned about the GIS app development. I have a little bit of money I put in there for help us create some apps, and of course this year it's being offset a little bit by the asset management grant. But that's services. That last couple of years we've been able to avoid a lot of the security assessment costs because we've been able to take full advantage of the federal programs and state programs. We've had 4 security assessments for different areas of the town for the last 18 months. But my understanding is all those services will be drying up over the next fiscal years. And actually we had trouble scheduling one because all the analysts were resigning or retiring. So that's one of the items for security services. I think Dan can correct me, Dan Gross is my budget liaison. Some of those things might be going up in the future The security assessments, you don't just do one and done. You kind of keep doing assessing, especially as you change stuff, add stuff on. So that's security services.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that it's critically important that we keep funding security, alertness and preventative actions, because you might not see the results of it. It's not something you can pick or touch, but in the absence of these things, the consequences are catastrophic. We've had a taste of that already.
Okay. Any questions on that one? All right, I'll move on. For software items, so moving down, software line item, that's budgeted at $140,000. And right now, we are in the middle of a police software upgrade. Like literally they're training right now. Part of that project we knew was coming on board. We need to separate the police network from ours for Crime Justice Information System, CJIS as they call it, and which also includes their email. So part of the software increase last year was I had to go out and create a new email cloud for the police, and we have to segregate them completely off from the rest of the network, hardware and everything. So that's part of the increase. The $140,000 I budgeted now, it won't be sustainable next year, because Microsoft has announced a huge increase. I was able to lock in price for 3 years, but none of that's going to hold next year. So no matter what, at that budget amount, I will have to look at our license levels and subscription and more actively manage the licenses. Nothing I can do about the Microsoft licensing costs, but I can kind of control some of the stuff. If we don't need certain licenses, certain levels, we're going to do that. And same goes to the police. Luckily, we started that recently, so we're able to explore some different licensing models. But that line item will not hold the way Microsoft's proposing increases. So that will be adjusted next year, and we'll see where we take the hit.
I've had some interesting discussions with FASH about the Microsoft license, and my understanding is that currently we license at the highest level, enterprise level.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily need to have that level for every user of that. So I've encouraged FASH to kind of put together a team, maybe get some volunteers and explore how we can use lower levels at a much reduced cost for the town, and also encourage to look at open source software that is increasingly being utilized in European countries that are substitutes for Microsoft and don't cost anything.
So Microsoft is not the only game?
There's
not the only game.
There's
but-
only a couple of games though, so.
Yeah.
There's actually only one, which
Yeah.
is LibreOffice, and there are all kinds of issues about, if you have very sophisticated users, whether it's compatible, with some of the complex spreadsheet operations, whether you can actually exchange documents, in a collaborative environment. So I've encouraged FASH, and I think you'll be starting, these little pilot study groups where we can experiment while we still have the Microsoft licenses to see exactly at what levels we can substitute lower cost items.
Yeah, and the interchange, when we have to interchange documents with other entities, whether at the state or other, I just know from personal experience, it can be really tricky.
The interoperability is something I discussed, and to be clear, the open source office isn't necessarily a candidate for everybody, but there's some low-end users or low usage users that I think we definitely can make use of it.
Yep.
But we also are concerned about interoperability, reporting, everything's electronic nowadays.
Yeah.
It's gotten much better than it had been.
Yeah, and again, not everyone's a candidate, but there's people that aren't using our system much, as you know, that we could easily.
That you can take it, you can
Yeah.
take the level down.
Yeah.
And by doing a kind of a pilot project while we still have Microsoft licenses, we can actually find out based on actual usage.
Yeah.
What works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
When do the licenses expire currently? Are they like a year?
November, December.
Or this year?
Yeah, and we already talked to the reps. We're gonna explore into the summer. We were able to use the police for our kind of experimentation, but there's several state contracts I can apply to, so that's where we're weeding through those. But yeah, something's gonna have to change, like Microsoft, it's not sustainable. We will not be able to stay on budget at all with the way the increases are coming.
And just quickly for me, enterprise level, do we need to have enterprise level?
I don't want to speak for my crew, but there's certain features in enterprise level, specifically security, that we are exploring. We might be able to add them on separately.
Okay.
But that's where it gets sticky. We're adding all these bolt-ons, so, because I know there's a couple things that we all think are really necessary, but of course they only come at that top level. So we are exploring it. We're not the only ones.
By the way, Bonnie, there are several levels of enterprise level.
Yes.
Not just one.
Yeah.
And where are we?
We are at the highest level.
We're at the
Okay.
5 level.
Okay, yeah, so that's an interesting question. And maybe, I mean, obviously security is super important, but.
We're exploring, I don't want to talk out of school, but my counterparts who were mismatching and going lower level, I told them what I was going to do. It's like, what are you doing? We're about to go up. So I'm not sure what's going on in the world. Because you're buying other products to handle that security pieces. So that's where I think everybody's looking is, no, I don't need to buy enterprise top level, but what am I losing, can I make up for using another product? And that's where the complexity lies.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say that's just as secure. Anyway. So.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the challenge with trying to bolt on security implications. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on software? And to be clear, the software we're talking about covers all town departments, so everybody's email, everything. It's not just my department. I want to talk about internet real quick. The ISP says email, internet. Email is a legacy item. We used to actually pay for email back in the day. But the internet cost, you can see I'm up $7,000. That's trending. Because we have one of the 2 only ISPs in this town, 3, if you want to count a couple others. And we're spending a lot of money with them. We have little choice. The way the costs are trending, and we're on public subscriber lines, by the way, we're not on private, you know. The way it's trending, it's making it easier for us to start looking at dark fiber. Essentially, you're throwing up our own fiber lines between buildings, and then having essentially the internet stuff go out of this building or the fire station, whatever the hub and spoke is essentially what I'm looking at. I want to add the complexity to that is, I have Comcast at every site. I pay internet at certain business sites, so I pay like $27,000 out of the $60,000+ the town pays. Complexity is, other departments use the phone lines. It could be for an elevator line, or alarm line, or fire line. I don't necessarily pay for those, but I have to account for those if I say we're going to cut out Comcast. Because I think somebody here heard I was cutting Comcast out, I got questions. I'm just trying to take it out of some of our service stuff because we need more, I don't say secure, but we need more secured services and more, connectivity. So I'm hesitant to put any more money through Comcast, but it's really getting to be where putting up our own fiber lines might make fiscal sense in the long run. Initially, you have a little more hardware costs on putting the lines up, but once the line's up, it comes back here. And then my vision is of a hub and spoke where everything goes out of one place, it's secured. The only catch is I have to separate the public traffic. So that's where my complexities lie. We're running all these services at the different rec sites and everything, but I only want my business traffic coming to me, and everything else public needs to go somewhere else. So that's where some of the complexities of redoing all the internet, but we're definitely exploring it, especially as costs go up. Just for 1 year, the costs I just tracked it was over $60,000 in the last 6 months. I think it's increasing 3% every month. And there's no change. I'm not changing any of the services. It's just the way the trends are going. So.
And I'm sure you'll be investigating this, and you got my question. I'm just interested in the extent to which you believe the dark fiber is feasible and just like to actually do that implementation. So how big a thing are we talking about?
Exactly. That's where I'm going to start running the numbers. I don't think every site, I don't think I'm ever going to run a line to make a treatment plant. It's too far away. I could be wrong, but that's where I use other services to bring all the data back here. Something we're exploring. It's complex because we have multiple networks. Again, public and business traffic separation is a concern. So definitely exploring. I've already kind of planned to see with all the department heads, start looking at all your services. Because if I take my Comcast modem out, all the other services stop, which is not feasible. So definitely exploring that.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Same.
Yeah, we talked about kind of generating a financial projection to see where the crossover is for the base investment in increasing the fiber versus the cost of the various ISPs that we subscribed to. I think there are 5.
Yeah,
that we currently
that's
do.
great.
And also keep in mind, I have to build in some redundancy to a couple of sites here in the police station. We have some other redundancies that also factor in cost, because that's another ISP line I'm bringing in. Because we can't have services going down here or at the police station. So, any other questions on that? And the only other item I wanted to mention regards to capital. So with the server network systems, I have to clarify, that is not a CI, it's not a capital reserve, it's just my capital items in my operating budget. So when you see $25,000 for a server or $10,000 for a server, that is actually my operating budget. It's not actually a capital reserve. Oh, thank you, Nicole. It's kind of a basic schedule I do up. The label should be updated because things have changed dramatically since I started doing this. But that's a capital plan, but it is all in operating budget. The only thing in capital reserve is my GIS 18,005. Otherwise, everything here is just an IT operating. And you can see here, I'm planning for fire department to do some stuff there. And get a new server for Lily stuff.
How do you see the increase in employees to do some of these things? Do you see much employment increase in your department? Yeah.
No.
How many do you have now?
I have 4 full-time staff, including myself.
Okay.
And no, staff actually doesn't solve these problems. Some of these problems are more, put the hardware in and we'll manage it. Yeah, so staff is definitely not increasing. It's a matter of the hardware, that's our problem. And the hardware costs keep going up. Every time we turn around, literally Tim was haggling with our Dell vendor earlier today to get some PCs, you know, at a reasonable cost. Took 3 weeks, he got it done. But that's what we're having to deal with. And the vendors know. I've cut services in a couple things and the vendors are going to argue. They know, they're hearing it from everybody. So I think they're going to have to start doing something different. So.
Are there packages, are they packaging some of the software in these PCs or systems?
The only thing a vendor's done for me, I cut a service and bought some other stuff. They gave me the discounting I had instead of giving me full retail. So, you know, as far as hardware, it's one of those you're haggling. You know there's a profit margin, but also with the overseas costs and all the other problems with RAM and processors, it's not going to go down. What's the, do you know the percentage increase we're looking at next year?
For
hardware and the processors and the RAM?
Right now, it's 12% from 3 months ago, and it's expected to go to 27%.
And we're just talking about RAM modules.
Yep, purely based on RAM.
Yeah, not even talking about storage or any of those things. So just to get a little bit faster machine, the costs are just increasing.
Are the tariffs affecting you at all?
Yeah, actually, they call them tariff costs. We actually sometimes have a tariff fee.
It's a separate line item.
Yeah.
But
I know.
that's, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say some vendors are actually putting that in, so we see the cost outside of other increases. They put a tariff fee in.
Yeah, but in terms of the RAM, I mean, I think that's another place where, maybe this is what you did. It's another place where, you know, do you really need all those licenses? Like, do you really need all that RAM? And really trying to meter that.
Yes, I can only say in the computer world, the more RAM, the better.
Yeah, there's not really much you can do, depending on what device you're talking about.
Yeah.
What's driving the RAM cost is AI, and all of these data centers, they're just absorbing, you know, it's absolutely going nuts in the marketplace. So
Yeah.
we will see that no matter what we do.
I think it's also important to remember that it's not just RAM for, you know, laptops and desktops, which, you know, are generally modest. It's the RAM for the servers. And the servers, you have to have a lot of RAM in order to have that many connections going in and out. Yes. It's not enough.
Yeah, we're not looking forward to it, but I think he's gotten pretty good at haggling. So. And the thing is, we buy off state contracts, so there's only so much room they have. So yeah, it'll be challenging with the budget just to keep it going. So that would do it for me. Any other questions?
Thank you, Posh. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've approved our minutes. think it's good there, so.
We did approve our minutes?
No?
Well,
No.
I'm
We
sorry,
signed it, but we didn't
approve,
vote.
okay. So do you need to have should we just have one vote for all the minutes, both select board and the budget committee for last week? Anybody have any issue with the minutes, if you have had a look at them? Your motion to approve them? Thank you, Al.
I second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Justine.
Right.
Motion to adjourn?
I think she didn't send it.
Second.
All in favor?
We're adjourned.